provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, the Highland Park Board of Education has given adequate notice of this meeting by having published the date, time, and place of this meeting in the Home News Tribune and has posted notice of this meeting at Bartle School, 435 Mansfield Street, Highland Park, New Jersey. Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Aversa? Ms. Berkowitz?
Here.
Ms. Bull?
Here.
Ms. Simarusti?
Here.
Mr. Dietz?
Here.
Ms. Hughes? Mr. Ross?
Here.
Ms. Scherber?
Here.
Mr. Sherman?
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 27, 2014 regular public and executive session meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Oh.
Who said second?
Greg.
Greg, thank you.
Is there any discussion?
I just had one note that on, I guess it's the Personnel Committee, it says and noted that the Curriculum Committee met. So that just the personnel has to be substituted.
It should just say committee.
There you go.
It's possible I said curriculum.
Sorry.
Right.
I'll be removing that word curriculum. Normally it just says the committee met.
Is there any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Bull?
Yes.
Ms. Simarusti?
Yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Scherber?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Linda, were there any communications?
There have been several email communications to the board members, which I'm sure you all received. There was a letter today, someone I think plans on reading tonight. I'm not absolutely sure during public comment.
Tim?
Start with the student update.
There's been a lot of concern lately about the replacement for the English teacher, Miss Marioni, as she has been out for a month or two and there has been no permanent replacement so far. This has been causing a lot of problems for the students, such as a lack of control in the classroom and falling behind in the English curriculum. Students would like to know when a replacement will come and would also like to be involved in the teacher hiring process as they have been in the past.
Also, students would like to be notified of how many additional days of school will be added to the school year due to the snow days. And finally, the Philman Conference, it will be taking place next week.
Well, we're discussing changes to the school curriculum calendar later today.
Thank you. And the other item, the Irving principal. So we have convened and gone through the first round. The second round is set up, and it'll be the building level committee coming up. And again, the hope is that we're going to have a recommendation to the board by the next board meeting, February 24th. So,
about in the English teacher in the high school, I understand we have a permanent sub right now, or what are we doing in terms of trying to replace that, or is this our status quo right now?
again, as we talked about at the last meeting, to find somebody that has AP background or English certification in the middle of the year to come in. The building has posted it, and they are looking for a candidate.
All right, but just in the meantime, the classroom control part of it.
That's new information.
Okay,
We're going to have to look into it.
The administrator in the building knows.
Are there any other questions about the superintendent's report? Okay, the Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Please, when you come up to the podium, sign your name and your address. We will be asking that you keep your comments to 3 minutes, and at 3 minutes, we will be asking that you conclude your comments so that everyone has a chance to speak. Thank you.
Dan, if I could,
yeah.
if I'm correct, if we could take a look, I believe that the policy says that if we're going to make the decision to limit comment, that that actually has to be done by a board vote. That's in the, hold on, give me a minute. It's in the policy that you're looking to update, I believe, 0164. Give me a minute. It actually says the board shall make no rules to limit its, wait, nope, that's not the right one, sorry. I wasn't sure if we were going to do this tonight, so I hadn't earmarked it.
In 0167, time limits for total discussion by the public, discussion of any individual item or any individual statement may be established by the president with the consent of the board. The president will give priority to individuals who have not previously spoken on an item. Insofar as practical, the president will attempt to obtain comments which reflect all sides of the issues being discussed, etc.
So, yeah, I mean, doesn't that say with the consent of the board?
With the consent of the board. And what's the mechanism for, yeah, I'm asking you. Because it wouldn't be a...
I would imagine that a verbal consent would be sufficient. It doesn't state that it has to be a vote.
Okay. So...
Solicit consent.
I have no interest in limiting, so that's not my consent.
So, all those in favor, is that, I mean,
if you want
is
to
it
have
an
a
aye
vote,
vote?
we can have a vote. It's not mandatory.
Time limits for total. I don't know.
Anybody have suggestions as how to proceed here?
Well, I mean, it's a significant change
Not a new policy
to.
Change.
It's a significant.
It's an existing policy that we're discussing.
Right. I mean, it's a significant change to our standard procedure.
It's not really. I mean, I've been on the board for a couple of years, and there's been plenty of times where public comment has been limited. I mean, I think in the interest of, you know, allowing people the option to be heard, you know, at an early hour, I think it's somewhat reasonable.
Okay. I mean, I just.
No, I understand.
If it's by board consent, I just want to state that I don't think it's a particularly great idea.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
No.
Okay. So as I said, public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. At 3 minutes, I'll just ask you to wrap your comments up if you would be so kind. Thank you.
I don't know if 3 minutes will be enough. I was asked to read a letter.
Okay, you need to just state your name, please, and your address.
My name is Rob Scott. I live at 25 South 2nd Avenue here in Highland Park. And so I was asked to read a letter that was written just about a week ago, and since then has gathered more than 250 signatures. So I know some of the people who signed the letter are here. If they want to stand up or come up and join me, you're more than welcome to. I think, well, I'd like to think there was a special reason I was asked to read the letter, but I think it's just because somebody decided, well, he has a really loud voice, so can everyone hear me? Good. So this is the letter to the Highland Park Board of Education. We are alumni and current, former, and future parents of Irving Primary School and residents of Highland Park who care deeply about public education in our community. We are gravely concerned about the future direction of our beloved primary school and the nurturing, creative environment for our youngest learners, which has been painstakingly created over more than a decade. At the Irving Primary School, the educational needs of our district's children are met in a supported and joyful environment. The creation of this environment was no accident. Considerable research was done, much discussion took place, and programs were implemented to ensure our youngest learners have the best start to their educational careers. Initiatives adopted included a high-quality certified preschool program, the physical overhaul of the school building, the hiring of a school leader specializing in early education, which is not the same as elementary education, and updating the Irving School report card to better reflect the school's philosophy. The Irving School is not a priority or focus school. It is not subject to any state imposed interventions. The only change the school must accommodate is adherence to the Common Core standards. We know from our long history that adoption of a new curriculum does not require the complete overhaul of a school's educational philosophy. We are writing to you to express our grave concerns about the measures being considered for Irving Primary School that will serve to diminish the work of our staff, clearly do not reflect the fought-for philosophy of the school, and we believe will harm our children and stifle their love of learning and creativity. Our current concerns. We are troubled by the lack of transparency and unwillingness to cooperate with the community as we seek to hire a new principal for the Irving Primary School. The board and Mr. McCone at the January 6, 2014 Board of Education meeting promised a building level committee of parents and teachers to interview principal candidates. It is unacceptable that as of the application closing date, February 2nd, 2014, no teachers or parents have been formally invited or named to the committee. In addition, because we are in the middle of the school year, we find it unreasonable and extremely short-sighted that the superintendent is unwilling to consider hiring an interim principal. We want to ensure that the very best person for the job is hired. 2, we are extremely concerned over the use of assessment rubrics for children's work posted on bulletin boards at Irving School and object to the use of these bulletin boards in teachers' performance evaluations. Irving Primary School welcomes children and families into our school district. We run the risk of losing families at this age group to charters, which is an added risk of placing additional and unexpected strain on our budget. This is yet another reason that the school needs to be the gem of our system and not the place where we show children and families that all we care about is test scores and outcomes. It cannot be emphasized enough how strongly the community is opposed to this approach. We recognize the decades of experience of our valued staff and are grateful for their professionalism and dedication to our students. We support age-appropriate learning, including social-emotional learning and creativity, and are not willing to trade this for testing metrics. We believe that testing is a measure, not the goal of education. We support providing a breadth of learning experiences for our children that includes art, library, music, and physical education in the right measure. We are seeking leadership from the board and administration that recognizes the wealth of expertise in our schools, and will work collaboratively, respectfully, and productively with the school community. We, the undersigned, value Irving Primary School. This gateway to our school district is an important and cherished part of the Highland Park School District. As we embark on its 100-year anniversary, we are committed to ensuring that the legacy of this great school continues for the next generation. We implore you to make decisions about the future of this school that are in keeping with its philosophy and that provide the best possible learning environment for our youngest students. Thank you for your time and consideration. If you would be so kind as to allow me my 3 minutes, as this is a letter signed by more than 250 people.
We'll presume that the letter that these folks behind you ceded their time to you, so please feel free to make 3 minutes of comment. That's fine.
So, I don't think they ceded their time. Are you asking me to?
I'm saying please continue. You may begin. You may begin.
So I just wanted to offer, my own reasons for signing this letter, and some context. I know that a building committee has now been formed, and I guess there's already been one cut made since this letter was begun, and I'm sure you've all seen a draft of this at some point, and so it's good to see that there was some result from this pressure. I'm disappointed that we have a committee of 10 to 15 people that is apparently in record time going to go through 10 candidates. And I'm wondering, is the building committee actually going to interview candidates and actually be allowed to ask questions, and how this is going to be possible in a very short period of time. I remain very concerned that we find ourselves in a situation where Mr. Capone, who clearly does not have the confidence of the entire community, has arranged the dream that every indie filmmaker dreams of, first and final cut. And so I'm concerned. And I know that this has not always been the way it happened in this school district. I was on an interview committee. My daughter didn't have a teacher. It was a last-minute thing. Mrs. Romano pulled me aside as I was dropping her off on the second day of school and said in her very Mrs. Romano way, Mr. Scott, can I see you in your office? And she expressed her desire to very rapidly get a teacher into the classroom, and she said, normally we have a parent or parents on these committees, and I don't want to give that up. Will you serve on the interview committee? Will you be available tomorrow? And I served on the committee. I didn't have to keep my membership on the committee secret. I was allowed to ask questions, express my concerns about the kind of environment that the teacher would create in the classroom, and it was a very open process. And I hope that you will work to make the process of hiring the Irving principal very open. I see that my time is up.
Thank you very much, Rob.
So, thank you.
Hello, my name is Allison Salerno. I live at 66 Grant Avenue. On December 16th, 2013, I filed an extensive Open Public Records Act request to the Highland Park School District office. Like many other concerned parents, I wanted to understand the factual basis for the November 4th reductions in force, and I have questions about Superintendent Capone's November 22nd FAQ and the Board of Education's defense that we needed cash. I understand workplace realities and the necessity of sometimes laying off employees for financial reasons. I've been laid off myself in the past. But the budget the board passed for 2013-14 school year suggested no need for layoffs. And the board's narrative, we needed to cut staff mid-year to pay for books, materials, and technology because of some kind of unanticipated budget emergency that the board had not bothered to report publicly at any prior meeting or to tell our borough council about, appeared to be full of shortcomings. Questions asked and not answered. How much of our book and material line items have been exhausted? What other lines could have provided transfers? What is the expected cost of books needed? In lieu of pictures of old computers, what are our numbers for the current computer inventory? Since the board and Mr. Capone were not providing answers, I figured I would simply request those materials so I could better understand the crisis. I hoped that the Oprah request would answer my many questions. Why were 10 people laid off and not 3, 11, or 7? Why were they all women? Why did all but the 2 literacy coaches work at the high school? Why was the high school principal the only building principal in the district left without a secretary? What exactly, line by line, were our district's needs for books and computers? How much would they cost? Again, I made my request on December 16th, and on January 27th, the district finally provided my requested materials. In brief, I asked for all emails and other communications related to the reduction in force or elimination of the 10 employees. I asked for communications between Mr. Capone and the board, Mr. Capone and other members of the administration. The response to the Oprah request stated that the documents, quote, are not in the board's possession. They don't exist. If we were to take this response at face value, the Highland Park Board of Education authorized the layoffs of 10 employees without any written supporting evidence that would tell them whether such layoffs were necessary, without any analysis provided about the needs for books and technology, and also without any plan on how operations would be affected or how the board had planned for schools to absorb this change to staffing. Specifically, I asked for the period of June 1, 2013 to the date of the request, any and all emails or other communications between Mr. Capone and any individual member of the board or the entire board,
Turn it off.
no, I wanted you to know, or between Mr. Capone and Mr. Soto, between Mr. Soto and any individual member of the board or the entire board.
Allison, just please be aware that that's 3 minutes. You can conclude your comments.
I have friends who are going to read this for me. This is important.
That's okay. Thank you.
The communication I sought, whether in draft or final form, in regard to budgetary issues, recommendations to eliminate positions, recommendations to create or transfer positions, recommendations to change job descriptions. I also asked for the period beginning January 1, 2013 to the date of this request, all documents pertaining to or addressing requests from teachers or administrators for actual orders placed by the district, including copies of all purchase orders, requisitions, invoices, shipping receipts, vouchers, checks for payment, and if applicable, any bids or quotes required, obtained, or provided, and any evidence of the receipt or disposition of such orders placed by the district for A, textbooks or other books for classroom or student use, and B, computers of any kind, computer tablets or any technology equipment to be used by students.
Allison, if you could just wrap your comments up, please. Thank you.
I will, and someone will be continuing my remarks.
That's fine.
According to the district, as supplied in response
Allison,
to the Oprah request,
please.
I want to finish this paragraph.
Okay.
It has no records of that either, and I believe it doesn't, because in the minutes of the November 4th meeting, where the rifts took place, after the eliminations occurred, it was stated that a board member, quote, heard there were not enough textbooks in biology and algebra. She wanted to know if this were true. Mr. Capone said he would look into this and let her know.
My name is Buffy Wild Greenberg. I live at 123 Park Place. I'll be continuing Allison's comments.
Buffy, if you could just sign in also, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How much thought went into the rifts? Well, according to legal bills I Oprah'd, Allison Oprah'd, Mr. Capone spent 30 minutes on October 25th talking to the board attorney about, quote, employee issues, unquote. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean the rifts, but on the same day, the board's attorney spent 9/10 of an hour, a grand total of 54 minutes, reviewing and revising a memorandum on tenure rights and another 1.7 hours on, quote, legal research on rift tenured secretaries and a draft memo on findings, unquote. 5 days later, the attorney had a 30-minute phone conference with Superintendent Capone about, quote, employee issues, unquote. On November 4th, Mr. Capone had an hour-long conversation with Ms. Adams. She researched and prepared a memo about tenured issues. That night, the board met at 6:30 p.m. for an executive session that concluded by the time the regular meeting started at 7:30 p.m. So after no more than 1 hour of closed session, the board voted to RIF 10 employees. Clearly, you spent more time on whether legally you could eliminate a tenured secretary, close to 3 hours, than on whether the office where she worked and the students she served could tolerate it. The only time between Mr. Capone's hire and the RIFs when the board committees met was on October 21st. According to the minutes, there is no mention of any budget crisis. This strongly suggests another explanation exists for why the RIF votes were taken. It appears the Board of Education did not conduct any analysis whatsoever to determine if these layoffs were necessary or appropriate, or even if they would be cost-effective. It appears you did not look at these employees' duties. Yes, you reduced payroll and benefit-related costs, but you did not factor in the cost of legal claims that have resulted from this unprofessional approach to cutting jobs. And you clearly did not consider the human cost to our students, educators, and staff. If the RIFs were truly in response to a budgetary crisis, which you have provided no evidence to corroborate, where is the evidence that any alternatives were considered, such as hiring freezes, wage freezes, reduction in work hours, or postponement of wage increases? It seems to me you did not carefully plan or execute these RIFs for budgetary reasons or think about minimizing our exposure to liability under various employment laws. It looks as if you did not think about minimizing the damage to employee morale and to school operations. Where is the evidence that you had a plan for how a public high school would operate without a guidance office secretary or any high school secretaries at all? The results of the OPRA suggest you did not develop uniform selection criteria or use a method of termination that was applied fairly and consistently across the workforce. Despite my request, the district has provided no evidence that it created and maintained any documents to support the decisions made in the layoff process. Where is your layoff analysis? Where is your list of positions under consideration? Where is your analysis of whether the RIFs would have a disproportionate effect on protected employees, such as women, workers more than 40 years old, racial minorities? Employment lawyers will tell you the stakes on this one are high. You don't have to be singling out a protected group. If the impact of the eliminations on that group is disparate, you are making us taxpayers vulnerable to lawsuits. By cutting jobs without any apparent analysis of personnel needs or budgetary needs, taxpayers have lost confidence in both the effectiveness and credibility of the elected and appointed leadership of the Highland Park School District. You are the trustees of a $31 million budget that is supported by our property taxes. The following committees would restore public...
Buffy, just please be aware of the time.
Oh, it's at time?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Miranda will continue.
My name is Miranda Outman-Kramer. I live at 226 Volkert Street. I have a child at Bartle. I'm going to read the conclusion of Allison's letter.
Miranda, if you could just sign in, please, that would be great. Thank you.
The following committees would restore public trust in both the financial needs of the district and the needs of the district as it pertains to technology. One, establish a citizens advisory board or a limited time task force on the budget comprised of appointed residents with expertise in accounting and financing. Two, hold public hearings on the school budget, not just annually, but whenever you find yourself faced with an apparent budget crisis mid-year. Give the public detailed and accurate information about the status of the district's finances. 3, establish a citizens advisory board or a limited time task force on creating a tech plan that includes accurate inventory and need assessment composed of appointed residents with expertise in devices, software, and bandwidth calculations as they relate to technology. I am saying all of this because those of us who have been showing up for meeting after meeting want to reassure the public that every kid, and that means every child and every teen in every neighborhood, in every school, in every academic background, counts. We truly care about all the kids in all the schools, not just our own children. We want to work with you, but in order to collaborate, we first need to trust you. We need to know that we share the same goals for Highland Park's children. But first, you need to take the necessary steps to restore public confidence and trust. We expect nothing less than forming these all so important advisory committees. Thank you.
Thank you, Miranda.
Hi, I'm Olivia Draper, 126 Amherst Street. Good evening. As a junior at Highland Park High School, I wanted to address a point that was made by Dr. Williams a few weeks ago regarding teacher recommendations and prerequisites. The elimination of both has been suggested, but as a high school student, I would like to make a few points. Prerequisites should not be looked at as a disincentive because they are what define AP, honors, and CP courses, because without them, students could easily enter any class despite previous experience, meaning, in the end, they would not have to work harder to earn the credibility that comes with higher level courses. For example, it is wrong for students to assume they can enter an AP physics class when they finished chemistry just the year before with a C. And it is wrong for teachers to advocate this. If anything, eliminating prerequisites would be a disincentive because students now know they will be able to jump from one class to another without putting in the sufficient amount of work that is necessary for that high-leveled class. Prerequisites are what keep classrooms functional and able to live up to their course title. Honors classes are honors classes because students are expected to put more time and energy into the work that is given. The same goes for AP classes, but to an even greater extent. Dr. Williams also repeatedly mentioned aptitude, which by definition is capability, ability, innate or acquired capacity for something, readiness or quickness in learning. One aspect I found unclear was when Dr. Williams mentioned students that had aptitude but were unable to attend their desired high-level course because of their prerequisite. What I do not understand is how they could have aptitude, ability, capability, acquired capacity, yet still not meet the requirements. It's contradictory. If a student had aptitude, they would meet the prerequisite and receive a sufficient teacher recommendation. You simply cannot have one without the other. My question is, why aren't teachers giving higher course level recommendation to minorities, as Dr. Williams pointed out previously? Is it because they are minorities, or is it because they lack aptitude? Because if it comes down to being a minority, we have a much bigger issue at hand. I'm getting the impression that these recommendations are being classified as racist by Dr. Williams, and I think clarification is needed here. Another point that was brought up was the idea of an alternate solution for these prerequisites, such as testing. And in response to this, Dr. Williams was asked, how do you measure aptitude? Well, I'll tell you how you measure aptitude. It's in those 182 days at school that students spend. It's the homework, the classwork, the tests, the project. That all adds up to measure a student's capability. We have other problems to look at. I think the problem high school students face is the lack of middle grounds concerning classes and their difficulty. There's nothing in between honors and CP classes which can really hurt students academically. Also, another problem is many seniors will tell you that they have not had a real science class since 8th grade due to the amount of inadequate science teachers that have been hired and fired within the last 3 to 4 years. This high school has bigger problems to face than prerequisites. How about we first review the hiring system for teachers so we don't hire another imposter and leave students struggling to learn chemistry and physics. Hopefully this is considered when hiring a replacement for Ms. Marioni. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia.
Board, my name is Dan Carmalt. I have 2 children at Irving School.
Dan, if you could just state your address, please.
326 Wayne Street.
Thank you.
I'd also like to apologize in advance because I have a bad cold tonight. I came late and I'm going to leave early after I've made the comments that I came here to address. And what I'd like to address tonight is the hiring of the new principal at Irving, as that's the most pressing matter. And in fact, the most pressing hiring decision since the board hired our superintendent. 2 weeks ago, I stood here before the board and asked you to make this hiring decision an open process. I said it would help resolve and restore faith if instead of picking the usual suspects, the board allowed participation by others in the community whose voices aren't normally heard, that may not belong to the PTO or come to board meetings. I asked the board to send out flyers to the parents at Irving, home in the little folders that get sent home with the children. And when I asked that, I'd ask that you outline a selection process for the parents and try to enlist parents whose voices aren't normally heard. And I stood here and watched most of you nod in agreement with me at this suggestion 2 weeks ago. To my reasonable suggestions, because honestly, how could you oppose greater transparency and community buy-in on the process? But flash forward to last Friday. You had 2 weeks to set out a process, to send out a flyer, but nothing until Mr. Capone sends out a letter saying that parents have been selected, but that the administration was keeping their identities secret. And I want to point out something. Secrecy is the opposite of transparency. The whole point of having parents on the committee was to give the community at large eyes, ears, and a voice on that committee. Even if you weren't chosen for the committee, you knew that your neighbor was, and you could go talk to them about your concerns. That's the heart of democracy, but that's not what this process is about now. I urge you, I ask you, to take away this secrecy about the committee. I can certainly understand a parent who doesn't want to be identified as being on the committee, but quite frankly, I think the desire for privacy has got to give way to the concerns of the community. If someone wants to be on the committee, they should be willing, able, and even required to talk to their neighbors about their civic responsibility. In fact, I've got another great idea. How about we hold a public meeting before the interviews are held, where the members of the community, the parent members, the teacher members, the members of the administration all show up and listen to the concerns of the community at large. And listen to their priorities, especially the Irving parents, and listen to hear what the parents say is the kind of principal that they'd like to see take over from Ms. Romano. And I'd like to see a show of hands here tonight about who thinks that would be a good idea. And board members are welcome to raise their hands to that question too. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, Sharon, thank you.
Okay. Hey, folks. I'm Sharon Kringle. I live at 147 North 7th Avenue. I have a couple of things for you tonight. So today I was with Mike Franchik, who is the Director of Government Relations at the New Jersey School Boards Association. You know him, right? And he told me, we were at a hearing testifying about Park and Common Core, and he told me that students can't take the online Park test on Chromebooks. And I said, the guidance says that you can. And he was adamant that you can't take the Park test on Chromebooks. So I know, I'm just telling you. I figure I'm your eyes and ears out there. I'm just telling you this. Maybe it's something to look into. You know, the guidance says that you can use this, this, and this hardware, you know, if the operating system works, if this works, if that works. You know, maybe it's possible that it's something with the operating system. He said Chromebooks don't run JavaScript and can't be reconfigured to run JavaScript, and so you can't use it. So, a heads up.
Thank you.
And you know, you probably know that they can't take it on tablets. You know that? Okay, good. Okay, just wanted to let you know about that before you bought 400 Chromebooks. Then I also wanted to talk to you about public comment. I hear that you are thinking about having the first session of public comment only about agenda items. And I think that it's a great idea to have committee reports without voting, and then public comment so that people can talk about what they heard, and then you can vote. And maybe you'll want to think about what people have said before you vote. But you can't make the first segment of public comment only about stuff on the agenda. You guys kind of signed up to be here all night if that's what it takes. But the public didn't. And folks come out and they leave their home and they leave their kids and their kids' homework and they leave whatever it is that they're leaving at home that they need to do to come here to tell you stuff that they think is important.
That was addressed. It was addressed at the last meeting, but in the first reading of the policy, there's no restrictions on the first public comment.
Okay. Oh, great.
Based on the conversation that we had at the board table last meeting.
Okay. Oh, I apologize.
Yeah,
and
no
that's
problem.
fantastic. Okay, great. And the 3-minute thing?
Yeah.
So, Darcy, you were reading policy that says that there isn't a limit on.
Dan has it right in front of him. He could read the exact section.
But you know how this works. You've done it.
Yeah, but right, exactly. So if you want to change policy, written policy in the manual, even if it's not a new policy, to change it in what is a more or less substantive way, you still need first reading and second reading.
We weren't.
I mean,
I mean, I read directly from the policy.
He's using the same purview.
If you want to give me a second, I can just read it again.
At the open campus meeting 7 years ago.
That same.
That he's using the same.
It reads time limits for total discussion by the public. Discussion of any individual item or any individual statement may be established by the president with the consent of the board.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's what you're doing right here, and that will not go forward either. That's for tonight.
That's not.
It's in the no. That's part of that policy. That's remaining unchanged.
You have to do it each time, right? I mean, that's just saying, right, under a certain circumstance that you choose, right, there's a lot of people.
I mean, we didn't just, you guys didn't just decide to do that in perpetuity.
It's the same purview that you used when you were president to limit.
I never used that.
Don't.
Never. All right, I have one last question for you. I see that there's a policeman here. He seems like a really nice guy. I'm all for overtime for folks, especially public workers. But I wonder if you could tell us about why there is a policeman here. I don't think this is something that we have done before, and I don't think anybody needs to really feel threatened in any way. Again, with all due respect. Thank you.
No, tell me the answer. It's fine.
Somebody asked me to ask you how much it costs for each meeting.
Well, the police officer was brought in at the request of community members.
Of members
or member?
No, hold on. The board did receive emails in regards to the police officer, but I also think that this board needs to do a motion if we're going to do this, because I am not in favor of paying for this.
I second that motion.
But not,
hold on. It will be done in old business or new business under the proper protocols to be discussed.
That seems great. Thanks. Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name is Kate Yurga. I live at 137 Hill Street. And I would like to read a letter sent recently to this board by Dr. Ellen Laborsky, a prominent child therapist in the New York area who's found out about what has been happening in the Highland Park schools. She is an expert in early childhood development. The proposed curriculum change in the Irving Primary School has recently come to my attention. As a clinical psychologist who has spent more than 2 decades consulting in early childhood settings, I have seen different approaches implemented and have followed the research in the field. I would like to share my findings with you with regard to the upcoming changes under consideration. While it is a most welcome idea to pay attention to early learning, we must be sure to do so in ways that reach the minds of young children. Young children are whole learners. The younger the child, the more all aspects of the learning experience influence the process. That is why no one would sit a toddler down in front of a desk and expect them to answer questions. That is also why kindergarten was first considered a children's garden, a place where children learned in varied forms. While we now include more academic readiness in that experience, we need to do so in ways that fit with their brain development. No one would give a 4-year-old the same content in his or her schoolwork that we would give to an 8-year-old. Neither can we teach in the same forms. Younger children include emotions and creative processing in how they think. They do best when those channels are given ample place in their school experience, as I understand they actually are in the current curriculum of the Irving Primary School. When young children are given academic tests, their emotional selves are actively present, so that while some of them may be able to manage the demands, many will respond with stress or anxiety. That causes two problems: a later resistance to learning on the part of the child, and a, quote, brain freeze, unquote, during the test, so that the scores will not accurately represent the child's learning. In that way, high-stakes testing backfires with younger children. The very results are likely to misrepresent the learning that the child could express in a more open, flexible, or multimodal classroom. I strongly recommend that the school board reject the metric system. Instead, they could offer their current creative curriculum as a model to other early learning schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Saskia Marina. I live at 217 Harper Street. I apologize for having my back towards you. Don't mean to do it. And I apologize. I'm very nervous. I usually don't speak to an audience. So here I go. I wanted to contribute something slightly different, the discussion tonight, because since November, we've seen the level of community engagement multiply by 1,000 times. This level of intent has been merited. Highland Park has a reputation for high-quality public education in a socioeconomically diverse environment. Residents have legitimate concerns about what's happening in public education, not only here, but across the country. Highland Park also has a reputation to fight for what it believes in. What Highland Park does not do well is channel that fight into productive dialogue that engages all parties. I normally do not post my personal thoughts or places like Facebook because I'm very much a fact person. In fact, as I read this, I assure you that I've written it dozens of times to make sure my feelings are founded and, more important, part of a longer discussion that adequately addresses the public education concerns in Highland Park. I think a lot of Highland Park is like me. We are concerned residents and parents, but we don't want to yell. We don't want to write in all caps. We want a resolution. We have seen an incredible amount of changes in the community over the past few months, some good and some bad. The district has seen an incredible amount of changes which have been overwhelming for everybody who has contributed to this discussion. I'm concerned that we can't begin to address the challenges facing our district until we're able to figure out what's rumor and what's reality. We must be able to provide constructive criticism to this administrative and the board effectively and with facts. Also, we're not all activists. Activism is essentially in democracy. But when you have two hard-headed sides, it is clear there needs to be another answer. Yes, we can carry out 2 election cycles, and yes, we can wait until we have litigations played out. But the parents with children in our schools and the people who have invested here, who own businesses and rent and own properties here can't wait. As a property owner, a small business owner, and a parent who cherishes public education as a great equalizer, I don't want to risk squandering my social capital investments as I watch this all play out with no end in sight. I personally would have rather spent working on my business, but I feel this was very important to me. I've been thinking for the past couple of days, there has to be a better and more constructive way to communicate, which then leads me to a lot of questions, the main one being how. How can this be achieved and have everyone's voices heard? So there are my thoughts, and I'm going to use the Irving Bulletin Board issue as an example. So, sorry. This is how I would have preferred this to be played out. Parents hear about the possibility of assessment rubrics being used for children's work and then posting on bulletin boards at Irving School. Parents address concerns to teachers. Teachers convey the concern to union leadership. Union does their research, addresses their concern with the administration. Administration contracts a person with the parents with the concern, or sends out correspondence through its standards channels.
Saskia, just please be aware of the time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I already passed?
You did, but you just finish up your thoughts, please.
Two more paragraphs? In the event there was miscommunication that led to deep concern within the community, the HPEA has a responsibility to identify the point of miscommunication and address the matter by training its members in proper channels of communication. The result is a more constructive dialogue between concerned parents and the Highland Park Public Schools. This, to me, is a stronger way of communicating and working together than first sharing information with the community without verification as to why or how something is done. This, in my opinion, is destructive and does nothing but create an unhealthy, inflammatory atmosphere. Just like how many feel that what's happening in the Highland Park Public School does not represent the Highland Park they know and love. To many more, the non-existent level of constructive discourse does not represent the civil community we have chosen to raise our families in. Last paragraph, I promise. We need to funnel that energy and find a much better constructive way so we can both be heard and respected. We need to find a constructive way so we can both, that was actually repeated. Those are my personal thoughts, and thank you.
Thank you, Saskia.
My name is Denise Mayfire, 314 Wayne Street. I'm a stakeholder here. I'm a resident here. I care about my community. I care about what's going on here. I live in New Jersey, unlike other people. I care about what's going on in our community, as you all do. I think what this other lady said was very important, but what I wanted to address was what Allison said. Sorry. I think we need a task force. I think we need a task force so we can dialogue with each other. The secrecy stuff is not good. And we have another teacher, another principal, sorry, coming up that we need to hire at Bartle School. I really hope you're not planning to merge the two principals. I really hope you're not planning to do that. Elementary school children and elementary school curricula are vastly different, as other people have testified, and as you all know, you're all intelligent, from elementary school. The job announcement was for elementary school. It's not good what y'all are doing. You need to talk to us. We need to talk to you. It doesn't need to be inflammatory. You're our neighbors. You're not our enemies. We're not your enemies. We all care about our kids. We all live here. I live here. I care about this. I can't stand that this is ripping our community apart. Speaking of secrecy, one of the other things I just wanted to bring up was I would like the finance committees and the curriculum committees, it would be really good if we knew where they were happening, when they were happening. As a public resident, as a private citizen, I would like to know when those are, and I would like to be able to attend them and to have some input into this curriculum that we are heading down that is tearing our community apart. I don't like where we're going. It really is not why I live here. I live here because there's a nice community here, or there was, until certain people came here and started wrecking it for me, for my kids. Yeah, look at him, he's smirking over there. Started wrecking it for us. I don't like that. You know, if I move, that's a property that could get turned over to rental. Do we want to live in a neighborhood without property owners? Do we want our property values to go down? I don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Is there any other public comment?
Hi, I'm Melanie McDermott, and I live at 330 South 3rd Avenue here in town. And I hope by now you have all heard that our snow-interrupted event, the Highland Park High School, Middle School PTO Educational Forum that was scheduled for last week has been rescheduled for Wednesday, May 19th. That's another... May. I guess I'm wishing winter to be over already. Wednesday, February 19th at 7 p.m. at the high school cafeteria. And I wanted to reiterate our warm invitation to all members of the school board and administration to attend. Your participation would enrich what we hope to be an informational and thought-provoking discussion on some of the new developments in education affecting our district, the Common Core, the associated state mandates, this park we've been hearing about, the tie-in with teacher assessments, with technology requirements, with what's the meaning of the achievement gap, what are some strategies that we can employ and others have employed to address it, how are other districts responding, and I really hope it leads to a constructive dialogue that continues after the meeting and that it leaves us enough time to inform some critical decisions that are coming up really fast, as in this budget cycle and with the new curriculum decisions that are being made. So I hope to see you there, and that goes for the audience too. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Melanie.
Can I just ask if the invitation for that is going to be sent out paperless? I know there was some confusion about that last time. Hello? Is this thing on? There was some confusion about this last time. I'm wondering if the invitation for this event is going to go out paperless.
What do you think the confusion was?
The confusion was that I don't understand why it did not go out paperless. It was a community event.
It went out to the group that was sponsoring it.
Right, but also I believe the borough sent it out. There's no reason why it shouldn't go out to our full list, and I would like it to go out to the full list.
Hello, how are you? My name is Jamie DiNicola. I am at Rutgers University, and this is...
Hello, my name is Natasha Piano. I'm also with Rutgers University.
I'm here because I'm gravely concerned about what's happened with the firing of Kathy Kotofsky, I believe her name was. I'm the uncle of two nephews and a niece at the Highland Park school system, and I was informed that Kathy Kotofsky was a certified LGBT some type of counselor of sorts and an abuse counselor. And I also am the founder of Transmissions, a transgender student organization at Rutgers University. So I think it's really imperative that Highland Park provides for their students a safe space for LGBT students as well as people who are experiencing substance abuse. And when I heard of this news, I was really concerned. And I think that it's important to have one person who the students have that they can trust, that they've known for a long time. And I don't think that it's all right for you to just fire one person and then distribute those responsibilities, which can be, you know, the difference between life and death for some students. Running a student organization that deals with transgender people, I know the statistics, 64% of trans people experience physical violence throughout their lifetime, 84% of trans people get bullied in school. Things like this can be prevented if you have a person that's there that knows their students well, that it has the best in mind for them, and it's really terrible that she was fired for miscellaneous reasons.
Hello. Just to follow up on what Jamie was saying, I also am a co-founder of Transmissions, which is a transgender organization at Rutgers, and I just wanted to, I came, how far? 20 minutes all this way just to speak to you all, because as the Board of Education, I assume when you took the position that you understood that your aim was allegedly to meet the needs of the community and of the students that you allegedly aim to meet their needs, I suppose. But are you really meeting the needs of the community and of the students when you're completely shoving and marginalizing a large percentage of the LGBT community at your how many schools are running here? 3 different schools. Are you providing a safe space for these students when you're firing the individuals who for years they have known are there and provide a safe space for them. This woman, I personally didn't know her, but I know from other members in the community, provided a safe space for many students. How many students do you think now go home and have no one to speak to because they don't have an LGBT-friendly person at their schools? Yes, maybe you distributed these positions to nurses and other individuals, but there's not a connection there. Coming out to someone, anyone, is very difficult for a lot of different students, and you are not providing a safe space for them, and therefore you are not meeting the needs that you allegedly said you were when you took these positions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Robert Slevich, 123 Magnolia Street. In our last two meetings, this board has not only discussed the inadequacy of the existing technology plan, but in virtually the same breath, the purchase of 400 Chromebooks. Adam, during one of these meetings, also discussed negotiations with a vendor on the Chromebooks. I believe someone on the board, I don't remember who, said they wouldn't vote for anything until a technology plan was in place. Hopefully that one vote, maybe two, would be enough to suspend the purchase of Chromebooks that no one can support where they're going yet. During the last meeting, Mr. Humphreys, in presenting a review of the technology plan, conceded that his equipment inventory may be in error of at least 30%. At this meeting and the previous meeting, the Board of Ed was requested to provide a description on how the 400 Chromebooks would be used. Mr. Capone, in the breakfast, committed himself to providing that data last week. To date, I don't think it has been provided. I would also assume at this time that the Board of Ed is not aware that an approved technology plan is required for E-rate discounts. Mr. Humphreys never mentioned these discounts in his presentation, and a review of E-Rate Central website indicates that Highland Park has $344,000 of committed funds that have not been dispersed to this district. It also indicates that no funding was requested for 2014. There are 40 days approximately left to request funding for 2014. You have spent the last two meetings discussing Chromebooks while ignoring the tech plan that you admitted was worthless. The board's focus on Chromebooks while ignoring the plan is costing this district, based on previous year's funding, hundreds of thousands of dollars. This board has been asked repeatedly to show the public the district park assessment tool results. Per Board of Ed statement, the existing and inadequate tech plan is funded at $50,000 per year. At $50,000 per year, the plan cannot afford 400 Chromebooks. However, I think the larger question is, prior to this review, how did the Board of Ed know that there was any sort of shortfall? Was there an earlier version of this review that was not distributed and not talked about? The Oprah request would indicate that this was not done. Right now, based on the actions of the board and the comments from Allison related to our Oprah request, I cannot see this any other way as an after-the-fact way to try to create a document to support the RIFs after the fact. Sunshine Law, I'm almost done. Sunshine Law requires budgetary discussions to take place in public. You guys supported bringing it in because of a personnel issue, but a budgetary discussion on what you guys needed and how much you needed to cut could have been done, but you guys didn't do it. No discussion took place prior to the RIFs. It is disingenuous to think that you can fool us by creating a document now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Rob. Hi. Before you leave, can you explain, so you can go back. Can you explain what the E-rate thing is that you mentioned and what those funds are?
E-rate is a program that's
why don't we let Linda explain it?
Oh, okay.
We routinely go into E-rate.
Okay.
Sorry, Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
Sure, no problem.
School districts in New Jersey and I think in the country are eligible for discounts through the Federal Schools and Libraries Division, depending upon the level of for low-income population. We file every year, and we have filed. We are up to date on our filing. And unfortunately, due to the level of our eligibility, we are not eligible for hardware purchases. We do receive rebate funding for technology.
Internet.
Basically communications, such as telephones, internet, things like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Is there any other public comment at this time?
Kim Crane, President of HPEA. As I stated at the last board meeting, I'll be speaking regularly at board meetings. The objective of my speaking is to address the board and the community and bring some of the larger issues, summarize some of the larger issues that we're having in our district, and offer suggestions and solutions and resolution to these issues, and a course of action. To start on a positive note, we recently decided our Teachers of the Year, and I would like to congratulate those. I'm assuming that there will be another board meeting also that will congratulate them and honor them, but we are so happy for them. For Irving School, it was Helen Radke. For Bartle School, May Lewis. Middle School, Henry Dykeman. For high school, it was Todd Kruger, and May Lewis was chosen through a very thorough selection process as our District Teacher of the Year. The association has reviewed the calendar that the board will be addressing tonight and highly recommends that it will be approved. This is a routine that administration has gone through throughout the years where the board controls the calendar administration, but the association is allowed input, and we highly recommend you approve it. Administration has allowed for 2 days in the beginning of the year for professional development that we greatly need. This is something that we used to do. It was something that was past practice many years ago, and it is sorely needed. In the rest of my speech, there will be references to some of the things that staff have requested. There are a continuing issue, and authentic professional development is one of these. This is something that we need to build on, and 2 days in the beginning of the year to attempt to do this, we have enough time now where we can have input, and that would be amazing for us to have that back as we used to have it. It was very beneficial. We're concerned about the board's changing attorneys. That's also on the agenda tonight. And we're concerned about the financial impact on the district. We hope that you consider this in your decision. There were a long list of job descriptions on the board agenda that were slated for deletion today. The association approached administration. I approached Tim, and I said, look, we would like some input on this. I just want a few weeks to put it out to staff. So it's not a usual procedure, but considering the climate, I'd like to put it out to staff because the list was lengthy. There were maybe 20 job descriptions that were slated for deletion. Most of these jobs are not a concern. They're something that this is a regular part of the school process, but there were a few jobs that I really needed the input on staff before we were okay with this going through. So we've been given a hiatus of 2 weeks to address this with staff, and we appreciate being allowed to do that. I have a letter here, now to the nitty-gritty. I have a letter here from Irving staff. This was given to me today at the Irving building meeting. I'm attending the meetings in the different schools, and Irving is having a justifiable issue, as many of the community knows and the board knows, with some of the communication that has been coming from administration. When I asked, this letter was written and then read with the majority of the staff there, and when I asked if the majority of the staff approved of what it said, they said yes. I would have liked to read the letter, but we don't make a habit of doing that until it's vetted through a process so we make sure that the information is authentic. So I made copies, and I may be reading it at the next board meeting. just so we can go through the process of making sure that everyone's on board in case someone wasn't there today. I do have points from the letter that are very strong points that I would like to make. This is... The staff felt that there were no misconceptions about the bulletin board directions that they were initially given from administration. The directions that they received from Ms. Callis were very clear. They understood that the bulletin boards and the rubrics were initially tied to their evaluation, and they were disturbed that it would be presented as a misconception when they felt that the instructions were extremely clear in the beginning. In fact, there's a PowerPoint presentation that supports that as fact. Thought I had more here. I will be meeting with administration in the near future to address this issue, this letter, and see how we can come to a consensus on how this communication issue will be handled in the future, because it does not stop at bulletin boards. This has been a continuing issue with communication as far as clarity, as far as many emails being sent to staff and their directives being given, and then the staff not being given the appropriate time to respond, or it's creating a situation with justifiable anxiety. And again, we will be meeting to discuss resolutions to this because it is a serious problem, not just at Irving School, but at all of our schools. Irving, however, in particular, is subject to this because they have no leadership that is consistently in the building. And we would ask that an administrator is always present on an open door policy for the teachers at Irving, because most of these issues can be resolved with a building principal. When you have someone who has your back that can ask about these situations, there's a lot less anxiety that comes from directives. And that is the middleman. That's the person who's not the association. The principal is the middleman between the superintendents and pretty much everybody else, and then they come back to staff. So this is a big issue for us, and we need to come to some sort of plan, a clear plan as to how we're going to deal with this immediately in the next few weeks. So that brings me to the wider communication problem. Again, I touched on the fact that Irving is without a principal. The middle school, Bartle, and high school, as well as Irving, are concerned about scheduling issues, shifts in curriculum, and state-mandated evaluations, which have all created this anxiety among staff who are still reeling from the rifts of our colleagues. We need to slow down and get clear instructions to which we can then give timely and valuable input, and this is not happening. And this seems to us, I've spent a lot of time this week gathering information from all of the staff members. And again, I'm not presenting issues here that we're resolving, that we're working on, that are being clear. I'm presenting the bigger picture. So these are the things that we would like to see happen. The high school needs more face time with administration and an opportunity to have a discussion about the concerns that they have. And the one they particularly brought up was the teen center, that there are great concerns about the teen center and how the students will continue to be served now that the SAC counselor is gone, because they do feel, staff feels, that there is a difference between having others that are maybe qualified, but not a single person that the students can go to. They know that person's face, they know that person's mannerisms. It's not the same as going to a nurse, and this is a great concern of the staff. The association would also like to recommend that the technology committee be immediately reinstated to assist with the concerns. We've heard some from the community tonight that surround our purchases in this area, and we feel that we can be of valuable service to administration in this direction. And also, if staff has input, we know what we need, we know what's in the classrooms, the tech guys know how to implement that, then the community can get a better feeling about where we're coming from and have different input. To conclude, the HPA-EA is requesting that community members write letters of support that cite the specific accomplishments or talents of staff members that teach and guide their children at school. We've been suggesting this to staff members for several months, but we haven't put out a formal request to the community. We're trying to build a record of positive performance, and we're now requesting that these letters be sent to help build this record, and hope that you will consider giving them to us as a boost in this area. If you can just write, even if it's a short email, and then we can give a hard copy to Susan O'Dotto. We don't do a lot to pat ourselves on the back, and that would be a great boost to morale. It would be a great boost for their personnel files, and we would appreciate that greatly. That is a way that people can help. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ken. Is there any other public comment at this time?
I'm Miranda Outman-Kramer. I've already introduced myself. I'm sorry to come up here again. I want to speak very, very briefly about an issue that is very personal to me. I am the mother of a child who is academically advanced, and this pertains to the bulletin boards. I am the mother of a child who is academically advanced, but who has some mild special needs. One of the areas where he really struggles is with motor coordination and muscle tone. In other words, to put it very kindly, his handwriting is beyond atrocious, to the point where I have serious worries about his teacher's ophthalmological health. And that is relevant because if the plan going forward, because the other aspect is that my child loves school. He worships his teachers. He thinks the principal of his school has superpowers and that she has cloned herself and that all of the crossing guards are actually her clones. He thinks that teachers and principals are like the most profoundly admirable people in the world. But with handwriting like his work will never visually present as exemplary, ever. And what I'd like to ask the members of the administration and the board who are present tonight is, what do I say to my son? What do parents like me say to kids like my son when they are not exemplary enough to be on the bulletin board? When no matter what they do, their physical limitations don't allow them to be exemplary. My son would be beyond devastated by that, to the point where I don't know how he could get over it. What I'd like to do is to cede the remainder of my time, my 3 minutes, to any member of the administration or the board who can give me some parenting advice on this question.
Do you know that handwriting is part of how the project is graded?
No. I know that it's embarrassing to my son to have people see his handwriting because he knows that it's not like that of other kids.
There's already a practice in this district. I spoke with the Irving teachers today, and they emphasized to me the fact that they do post things, that they do put up student work, that this is already something that they do. And it's not about the handwriting, it's about the content. That's what it is that you're trying to showcase. Is the content, is the student learning from the assignments, the kinds of things that they're accomplishing in school.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I do appreciate that this policy was put in place with the best of intentions, as I believe everything was done with the best of intentions. I continue to believe that unless it's incredibly carefully managed, public showcasing, the flip side of public showcasing is public humiliation, and that as kids enter sensitive social ages, that becomes particularly acute. But I do appreciate what you're saying, and I certainly don't doubt the good intentions behind the project. My concern is about the unintended effects. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Ann Gowan at 201 South 2nd Avenue. I just wanted to follow on with what Miranda said. I think we were concerned not so much about showcasing work generally. I mean, as it works now, everybody's work is up there on the bulletin board. I think we were concerned about the exemplar policy, that there would be 3 or 4 kids whose work is shown as, meeting all the rubrics. My kid also, very smart but has some mild special needs, is classified. His handwriting will never be legible enough to be an exemplar, even if the task is not a handwriting task. That's going to be devastating for him too. So I just would urge the board to consider moving away from the posting only exemplars model on Irving bulletin boards. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anne. Is there any other public comment at this time? Claire, could we have the curriculum committee report, please?
Sure. The curriculum committee did meet tonight, and we talked about many items. One of them being some of the issues at Irving School, and we also talked about, did you all get this list of field trips?
Yes.
Not the board, but the public? That's what I'm going to refer to next. We talked about the field trip requests, and you can look and read them all. And you can see who's paying for what. There's a DECA trip, which includes kids and judges. There is a trip to the Franklin Institute, another DECA trip, and I don't know what group that is, cultural awareness trip, and a physics trip. What else did we discuss?
You took notes.
We talked about, excuse me?
You took notes.
I did take notes. I'm going to get them out. Put them on the back here. We met with Mrs. Callis. She's Mr., right? She's not a doctor. Mrs. Callis. And she told us about some of the workshops she's done with the teachers. One was a differentiated instruction workshop, which she gave today with middle school teachers and Bartle teachers. She had done another workshop on instructional framework. She had done another workshop on how to administer the Fontes and Pinnell benchmark for reading to all K through 8 teachers. And she'd also done a workshop on, not all today, by the way, done a workshop on Tier 1 whole group instruction strategies for teachers in grades 4 through 8. And with that, I would like to move items 2 through 5 on the agenda.
Yeah, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kathy. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have a few questions. In terms of the Irving I don't know why I keep calling them billboards. Bulletin boards. Did the curriculum committee discuss that today?
As a policy, or no, we didn't.
Just as a informative procedure?
Yes.
You discussed it in committee?
Yes.
Okay. What did you guys discuss, I guess, is my question.
We discussed the fact that rubrics are not generally used at Irving.
Yes, that is true. And are we changing that?
That wasn't a part of the discussion.
Okay. Well, I have a copy of the email that Israel and Michelle sent out with the PowerPoint, and it clearly says that rubrics are going to be used in Irving School, and it also clearly says that student work is going to be posted I will read, student work with rubric score.
Was that before or after they knew that rubrics were not commonly used?
This is an email dated January 28th.
And I don't know when they found out that rubrics are not commonly or typically used.
Are you questioning the use of rubrics?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not actually sure why. I guess questioning anything gets a rousing applause. I have to say that rubrics are something that are used at every level
by the teachers.
By the teachers, of
Yes.
course, to equate grading across different classrooms. If you have 5 different Algebra 1 teachers, for example, who are giving the same assessment, you want them to use a rubric, which very clearly outlines what type of response would get 1 point, what type of response would get 2 points, etc. And a rubric is just all it is a scoring guide for an assessment that's commonly given.
I understand all that, but I think, as Claire just said, that that's not been the practice at Irving.
So with that, I think the administration realized, oh, I think we better talk about rubrics.
Okay, well, that's what I want to make sure we're having that conversation.
That was clear in our committee meeting.
Okay, so I should hold the curriculum committee is investigating the Irving School bulletin board situation, or have you guys concluded that?
No, it wasn't even an agenda item. It was just here's some background to some of the questions.
Right, I understand that, but the proper place for this conversation would be in the curriculum committee, and I just want to make sure we do not operate as a board as a whole. The whole board is not having this conversation until the committee has it. And I just want to make sure that the curriculum committee is going to be having this conversation about what the proper procedure for grading and for displays of work and what was wrong with the previous way and why we're changing it. Or if we are changing it.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, I guess if we're going back to questioning what the purpose of a rubric is quite simply a way.
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
It's a way so that you're looking at the same thing. So if we're saying here's something that we want them to learn, all right, for a writing assignment per se, you would have some measures by which it is that you're going to say that that's meeting that standard. So it's just a formal way of providing feedback.
I understand the teacher understands what a rubric is, but does a 6-year-old understand what a rubric is?
Well, they can if they're taught what those things are. In addition to that, the problem that we're addressing here is the fact that this has not been something that's been a practice, that they haven't used it, that there's not familiarity and that additional professional development is needed as far as how to use rubrics. But rubrics are not a new concept. They are something that's used throughout the district.
At first grade, at the kindergarten and first grade level?
There are measures that you use that you can write a rubric for anything.
But for a teacher to have, not necessarily for a student to observe and to be accountable.
But yeah, I think the issue that came up wasn't just the use of rubrics, it was the posting of rubrics and the posting of student work with rubric scores on the work. So a discussion of whether teachers understand how to use a rubric, which, I mean, they're teachers, and whether that work should be posted with the student scores, those are two separate issues.
So right now we're talking about the use of rubrics, and for the use of rubrics, I don't understand what your concern is.
That would be a much less contested discussion, I have a feeling.
My concern is in the implementation of it, and that we are now having students at that grade level be cognitively accountable to a number and not necessarily an idea.
Rubrics aren't all numbers. Rubrics can be, they can result in a word. Like
From an educational perspective, if a rubric is set up prior to an assignment being given, then the expectations for that assignment are clear to the student. And if those are communicated to the student properly, then the student knows what the objective is in the assignment and can then understand what's going on. So if you ask a kid to draw a picture, right, with certain things in it, then, right, my son is in first grade. Okay, so I have, my son is in first grade, he has to write a paragraph. The paragraph has 6 commonly used words or high-frequency words. He has to use all 6 high-frequency words. That's the practice. If he uses all 6 of them, according to whatever the standards would be, then he's met the,
You know, I never try to be or act like that I'm a educational expert. I've sat on this board for a long time, and I'm a lay person just as much as many of us are. I just don't comprehend the idea. First of all, besides, you're right, we are talking about two different issues. The graded work going up for me is a non-starter, and the other part about a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old adhering to a rubric is questionable grounds for me.
Would it help, Adam, if we brought a rubric to you so you could see what it looks like?
Yeah, it would.
At kindergarten and first grade level?
You know, I'm going to defer to people who are smarter than me on this. I just have a feeling on it. And that's what I'm trying to express here.
Okay, so we'll make sure we can talk about it more in the curriculum committee, but I think it would be helpful if we brought some samples so you could see what it really looks like.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion?
Well, you know, I think the thing about the bulletin boards, perhaps, and just because we're going to talk about the bulletin boards, the part that strikes me as probably the more important issue, and it sounds like it's going to be addressed. I don't want to belabor this, but it sounds like there is a communication gap of some kind. It sounds like there was miscommunication of some kind. I can't put my finger on what it was because there's a lot of people in the mix. It sounds like it's going to be addressed. I hope it does get addressed, but to me, that feels like that's the bigger issue that we need to be getting addressed right now, is figuring out how to close this loop so that confusion that arises out of apparently new or not so new practices, however it happens, that we don't get that confusion again. I think there's a lot of confusion about the bulletin boards. It arose because there seems to have been some miscommunication. I'd like to see that miscommunication issue get addressed between the administration and the teachers. It sounds like it's going to be addressed. I'm happy to hear that. And I think that's what, to me, that sounds like the bigger issue at hand than the question of, maybe the rubrics are a big question, but I don't know about that one.
I think that Kim Crane made public comment and submitted this letter, and you know, you can read the letter because I think she addressed the issue of communication between the administration and the teachers.
Yeah.
So, is there any other discussion? Linda?
Ms. Aversa? I'm sorry, Ms. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Bull?
Yes.
Ms. Simarusti?
Yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Scherber?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Catherine?
The Finance Committee did meet tonight. We noted that Linda will be attending a ROD grant paperwork session to find out how to fill it all out. Linda also received suggestions from the representative from the New Jersey Healthy Schools program regarding our food services management company, RFP. She will be working with the architect soon to start work on the high school balcony upgrade project. Of course, she's been working with the administrators on budget. And again, the governor's budget address is scheduled for February 25th, and then we get the state aid figures probably on the 27th. And from then, we'll have an idea of where we stand. And we also went over a couple of policies, and we'll be doing more next meeting. With that, I'd like to move items 2 through 12 on the addendum.
A second.
Is there any discussion?
I just want to add one thing to the conversation we began to have about the budget. I think this is going to happen very quickly. It's actually going to be slower than normal, but it's still going to happen very quickly. I don't know what is entailed right now for the budget coming up. You know, the state government has pension payments that are ballooning. They have revenues that are at a shortfall. I don't know where our state aid numbers will be. I don't want to put anything out there, but I have been on this board where we've cut $1.3 million from a budget in times of the budget times. We've cut $700,000 one year. The last 2 years where we have not made monetary cuts are a rarity. And I just want us all to be prepared of having the conversation about the 2% cap, and if we exceed that cap, and if we have to make hard decisions in terms of expansion of programs due to our enrollment, and cuts in terms of other programs. So I just want us all to be open and honest about this conversation that is going to happen. Right now, if, you know, as the auditor said, we're still at $100,000 shortfall for next year's budget. There is a conversation that's going to happen that's going to invoke as much thought process as we've had to do in a long time. So I just want everybody to be prepared for that. And I'm just not, yeah.
I just also would like to address item 11 on the Finance Committee report, which is the approval to contract with school board attorney Schwartz, Simon, Edelstein, and Celso. The reason I'm addressing this preemptively, and I imagine that someone would like to make a public comment about it, but I do want to just address the process that was undertaken. 9 firms were sent an RFP and 4 firms were interviewed. And within this process, the attorneys at the firms were reviewed, and several of them were among the most highly reviewed from the administrator's perspective. The best special ed attorney in the state, other excellent attorneys throughout the state with regard to school law. A number of references were checked by all the members of the administration. Additionally, over the last week, I've spoken to school board presidents and vice presidents in a number of districts in Middlesex County and Somerset County. And all of the people that I've spoken to have been extraordinarily happy with the firm. They have said that the firm has been very responsive, very responsible, that the billing has been very clear, that all of the questions that they've had to ask have been answered, and that overall they are extremely happy with their choice of school board attorney. In addition, we met with the school board, with representatives from the firm this evening, and we addressed the concerns of the community, which were also concerns of ours in our original, looking into the firm. Responses were given by the firm, by the members of the firm who were there. At this point, we feel comfortable putting them on the agenda and moving forward with them. And so I just wanted to let everybody know that this has been a very thorough process. The other thing to note is that a school board attorney is not necessarily a long-term contract. It is a service provider that is the type of contract that gives us freedom to either continue our relationship with them or not, as we see fit. So if it does turn out that we find a discrepancy in an issue, whether it's with representation, whether it's with billing, whether it's with responsiveness, we can certainly take action at that point and address the situation. Is there any other discussion? Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Bull?
Yes.
Mr. Marusti?
Yes, 1 to 10, no 11.
12?
12.
11.
12.
And what about item 12?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes to 12.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Scherber?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes to all, abstain on 11.
And is there a Personnel Committee report?
Personnel Committee met tonight and discussed agenda items and also a couple additional hires. We will be having a new full-time social worker at Irving School who is somebody who had rehiring rights from a previous layoff, and we all are very sad to see that Lauren Fraser has decided to retire from the district at the end of the school year, and we certainly will miss her. I would like to move items. Should we clarify 6 for 8? I'm sorry, clarify 6 for 8. Yeah, don't worry about it. First of all, I would like to table item number 4.
We don't have to table it.
If you don't move it, you don't have to table it.
Yeah.
I thought we
Unless
did.
you move it.
No, we didn't move it yet.
So then we're not going to move item 4. And I would like to strike item 6 and move items 2, 3, no, I'm sorry, 2, 3,
6 on the addendum.
6 is the addendum now.
No, 6 on the addendum.
6 is the only addendum.
There's 2 6s. She's right.
Oh, there's
Anne's
2
right.
6s.
Yeah,
I'm
Anne's
sorry.
right.
There's 2 6s. So, strike 6 on the agenda. But I'm moving 5. I'm striking 6 on the regular agenda and moving 6 on the addendum.
7 and 8 also.
7, 8, 9.
7 and 8.
6 to 8. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at. You know what? I'm looking at this piece that.
That's all right.
Okay, I'm looking at the piece that Linda gave me. And 7 and 8. Yes. Everybody got that?
You got that?
No.
Linda?
So I'm striking 6 on the regular agenda.
If we could just renumber the addendum to 7, 8, 9, I think it would be more clear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree.
So that means you're moving items 7 through 8, 9, 7, 8, 9 on the addendum.
On the addendum.
Items 2, 3, and 5 on the main agenda.
Yes. Thank you, Linda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Just as a question, well, you know what, you didn't move it, so I don't really have to ask it, but just to be clear, this got raised earlier tonight when Kim was speaking, but the positions that were up for elimination on the agenda item that were not on the agenda tonight, those are positions that are not currently held by anyone in the district, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Linda, roll call, please.
Ms. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Bull?
Yes.
Ms. Simarusti?
Yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Scherber?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yes.
Adam, Policy
Yes.
Committee?
The Policy Committee did not meet tonight, but we are individually reviewing our policies, and if needed, we'll be meeting prior or during the week before next meeting, hope if we can work it out. Each committee has their policies that they're responsible for, and I hope everybody is going through those from the ones that we don't have. With that, there is the conversation that we had last time about the change in the bylaw, so I'm going to move item 2 under the Policy Committee agenda first, and then I will move 3 after that, after we have the discussion. I guess I'll move. What do we normally do? We move them together?
Yeah.
We move them together? All right, I'm going to move items 2 through 3 in the policy agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
So just to clarify, we are not limiting prior public comment during in the bylaw.
Correct.
Okay.
The only change in the bylaw or in the conduct of board meetings policy is following the superintendent's report is the board committee report.
Yep.
Followed by first public comment, and then the board committee recommendations.
Okay.
So just so the public understands, the board committee reports that you've heard would go after the superintendent's report, but prior to the first public comment. After those committee reports are made, there would then be time for public comment to be made prior to us moving anything in regular board business. So the public would actually be able to comment in the intervening step between the discussion of the item and the actual motion to approve or not approve those items. And then we would then move on with the agenda as stated. And those are the only changes in that policy for first reading by my recommendation.
Thanks, Dan. Come on, give them a little bit more. This is a good change.
Is there any other discussion?
What are you confused about something?
My copy doesn't show any.
You don't see the changes?
I see it. I see
It is on the one on the drive.
Yeah, I have the change.
The one on the drive. Yes.
Do you need a paper copy of it?
No, I'll look into it.
It is first reading, and the board does have the right one.
Okay.
Dragged into the drive.
Is there any other discussion? Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
This is for both 2 and 3, correct?
I'm sorry, can I ask a question before we vote?
Of
For
course.
number 2, it's just to do the first reading. It's not voting on the changes.
You are right. It was moved for first reading.
Okay.
Right.
Policies need to be read by title twice before they're adopted.
Okay.
Right. So the charge would be take a look at it if the change is there, and if you have any other additions or deletions, just bring them up next meeting.
And Dan, I do want to say I do really appreciate the fact that you listened to the feedback from the last idea of moving public comment and not limiting it. So I really appreciate that.
Great. Thank you. You're welcome. Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Okay. Ms. Berkowitz?
Yes.
Ms. Bull?
Yes.
Ms. Simarusti?
Yes.
Mr. Dietz?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Scherber?
Yes.
Mr. Sherman?
Yep.
For the President's report, I have just 2 items. The first is the Communication Task Force met on February 4th, organized again by Matt Hirsch and Saskia Marina. So we very much appreciate their efforts. There were about 15 people, members of the community, and also staff members present. And Kim Crane, the president of HPEA, was there as well. And it was a very positive environment. Certainly not everything that was said was only positive, but it was a very good dialogue, and we appreciate the teachers for coming to that meeting, expressing themselves so clearly to us. And again, we appreciate the borough communication folks for taking this task on. The other thing that I just wanted to briefly discuss was last Friday I was part of a delegation that was put together by Rutgers to visit the United Nations. And that was put together by Mary Curran. There were about 14 teachers from the district who were there, who are part of a grant, a small grant, to write curriculum which pertains to UN Global Outreach. So we met with the director of UN Global Education, and we met a couple of other staff members in the United Nations Education Group, and we sort of got started on some conversations, and those teachers will be writing curriculum paid for through a grant from Rutgers. And so I just wanted to thank Mary Curran publicly, and also thank you to the teachers who were able to attend and provide their input in that process. You can applaud, Sherry. And that's that. So, old business.
Chris, what's my password?
Why don't we tell everybody?
Yeah.
Oh, is it my email password? Sorry, guys. Yep, that's what I thought.
So in old business, we have something that is responding to public.
Yes. Put that there.
Yeah, I mean, this is something that I've asked to be addressed. As Linda states at the beginning of every meeting, we've been receiving a large number of emails from the public. That's, then reiterated by large numbers of people coming and giving public comment. I want us to talk about, as a board, how we respond to emails. Right now, it seems like there's just a form that's sent back, and then sometimes a single board member responds, usually not. It seems too sporadic, too haphazard, too based on individual preference. Interestingly, this is covered in the policy that we were just discussing, so I know maybe I should have brought it up as part of that discussion. But in terms of communications, what the policy says, it's the policy that we were just discussing, 0164, the Board of Education recognized that from time to time written communications may be received that should be brought to the attention of the board and public. The president shall direct the superintendent to distribute copies of all written communications to all board members, which obviously isn't a problem because now these are all emails, so we all get them. The president shall have responsibility to reply. So this kind of lays it at your doorstep, Dan. The president and I don't know if we want it that way, that's the way it's written right now. The president or presiding officer at the public session shall have the authority to direct the reading of communications whenever appropriate. However, a majority of the board may direct that a communication be read or not read. So to me, this goes to transparency, it goes to how we're communicating with the public. There seems to be a lot of input that we're getting, and quite frankly, I mean, the only word I can think of is just dismissing summarily. And I want us to think about that as a board.
As I said, this is my understanding of what happens. When you email the BOE at hbschools.net, you're emailing the Board of Education. You're not emailing you, you're not emailing me. You're emailing the board. We're only the board when we're sitting here at the table, or
Correct.
5 of us are in a room. So to respond to an email is not necessarily appropriate, because Dan could respond to it, but Dan only speaks for the majority of the board when we are a board. Besides that, Dan is just Dan, really.
That's it, man.
But then we need a clear policy
Just
that
me.
states either we don't ever respond, because clearly, at least I know in the last couple of weeks, there have been emails that have been responded to by individual board members.
As a rarity.
Okay,
It's a very, very rarity.
So either we all are very clear that that's not what we do, but then if ostensibly we're going to say that as a board we do not respond in any way to email communications, the emails are not read into record, they're not responded to, they're not even listed or categorized in terms of topic or subject or the number of emails, then why do we have email?
Because they're for us, for the board.
But they're also a matter of public record, no?
Well, we had this discussion when we put this policy into place of, are they public record? And Gwen helped us form this ideology, and Dan wasn't the president when we did this.
You mean Gwen, our NJSBA
yeah, our
rep?
NJSBA rep.
Just making sure we all know who Gwen is.
That it is not proven legally how boards do this, and what is a violation of the Open Public Meetings Act and what is not in terms of email.
Right.
Like the 5 of us can't be on an email. We know that.
Right.
None of us reply all. And at the bottom of the email that I believe Linda sends out, it says your email will be forwarded to the appropriate person in the district. And I believe that happens for appropriate questions.
So,
sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that there's certainly a reason to send the board an email. We do read them, right? And so it does inform our approach to issues and our conversations.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. But I also do agree with Darcy in the sense that we need to know what we're doing.
So, I mean, the way that I read this policy and the piece that you read, there's a lot of maze, right? So I think it's definitely, situational. But we will be meeting with Gwen Thornton prior to the next board meeting.
Okay.
I think that her advice would be really useful for us in this conversation.
Sure.
So I think that, from my perspective, I'd like to have her weigh in rather than us make a sort of a gut decision about sort of the legality of it or the right way to approach.
I remember us discussing when we changed when we created the board email address, that what happens when people email us about a personal private matter? Is that a matter of public record?
Well, but those aren't the emails that we're talking about right now. We're not.
But it doesn't. One email has nothing to do with the other. They're all emails. And that was part of the discussion informing us of why we chose the route that we did.
Well, I like your suggestion. Let's talk to Gwen about it, get some input from her, and see what direction we can go with it.
I'm just trying to provide detail of how we got to where we are.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other discussion on the first item, responding to the public? Okay, the second item for old business is committees. Is that?
Yeah, and I think we've heard the idea floated out a few times now, the idea of making our committee meetings specifically specifically not personnel, but finance and curriculum more open to the public so that the public knows dates, times, places. And I mean, I would also like us to look at, and I know whenever this comes up, the remark is then made, we have to be sensitive to board members and their time. And while I agree with that, I think we also have to be sensitive to the public as well, and that it may help to sometimes vary dates and times for curriculum meetings. So curriculum and finance specifically, so that we can have more, I mean, from what I understand from folks in other districts where meetings are more open and there is public notice, that it's not necessarily a thing where, you know, the public comes in and it's a back and forth dialogue. It's more of an observational procedure where people can at least come in and observe the process and then get a better understanding of more of what's happening in those committees. And, you know, certainly when we have so many questions going on about transparency, I think this would be a fantastic time to open the doors.
Thoughts? I mean, I work in a district where curriculum committee meetings are open. It's a very different scale, and so, you know, to have a curriculum committee meeting, but I mean, I think it's a good idea, certainly. It's a question of just the logistics, I imagine, more than anything.
Yeah, conceptually, I don't have any, I like the idea. I was just flipping through, we have a policy 0155 that talks about the committees. I honestly don't, now that we're asking this question, aside from the personnel committee, I know that I actually did attend way back when, before I was a board member, I attended a finance committee meeting.
At the invitation of the committee, though, I would assume.
You know, honestly, I can't remember if I was invited or if I invited myself.
It was when you were on the task force.
I was on the task force, but I know, but there was a budget task force back then, and I know that I went to a finance committee meeting. I don't think there's anything about those committee meetings in general that needs to be something that is closed to the public. It's a logistical question, and it's also, like what you were saying, is it an observational thing? Are you just coming to watch? Are you coming to participate? Do we need to consider limiting the number of people who, I mean, you know, if we're filling a room, these are just questions I'm asking. I don't have the answers, nor do I have any particular opinion. But if we're going to invite the public to attend, is the curriculum meeting going to be in a room like this so anyone can attend and watch? Or should we be limiting the number of people coming to, you know, a certain amount of people? I mean, I don't know the answers to these questions, but I don't see it spelled out in our policy. And I'm wondering if we need to start at that level first.
I think I mean, again, with Gwen coming next meeting, we can talk to her about how to, I mean, we'll look at our existing policies and see if they allow for it, right? And presumably they do. And then we can talk about, you know, logistics and what her experience has been with it.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any other old business that's not on the agenda?
Yeah. I want to talk about the SAC and the services that were brought up today, the LGBT, the alcohol and drug, the building, the bullying, and the safe space programs that we've had. I really want a presentation, or at least an explanation, to the curriculum committee or to the full board about the services that we are offering. I brought this up now for, I believe, 3 meetings. I'm still not completely satisfied with where we are in terms of these services, and saying the teen center or the guidance counselor is in charge of them is not sufficient enough to me. These are deep concerns that I think can, if done not correctly, I don't know, a double negative, can have grave impacts on students' lives and well-being. So I just want to make sure that the board has fully investigated this and evaluated it.
When does the teen center normally, for those of you who've been on the board, there's usually an annual presentation?
I would assume it's coming up.
Can we get them in maybe next meeting?
Yeah.
Perhaps we'll try. We'll try. Okay. So would that work?
Yep.
And if not the 24th, then the meeting after that.
I think that many people have brought up the concerns, and I think
Yeah.
Wasn't the nurse also floated, though, as an option for students? I mean, I think we would also need a clear plan of who the student is to go to. I mean, I don't know that just a teen center presentation covers that, because I believe the response at the last meeting was that the student could go to the nurse or the teen center. So I think we would also need to define this very clearly for our students.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
I have a question about the technology policy. Is this the time to do it?
It's old business.
Old business. I don't have the policy in front of me, but a question came from my son, who's a 9th grader, who asked, how come in study hall we're not allowed to listen to music? And I promised him I would ask, but I'm not telling him the answer unless he's done his snow shoveling. But just so I know, he says some kids, they're allowed to listen to music on their computers, but not on their phones. Is that what our policy says?
For study hall or for lunch period?
Study hall.
I can pull it up. I don't know. We debated that one vigorously.
Are you talking about the policy or the enforcement?
I want to know if that's correct.
Well, I guess
the policy is probably the more important question.
Right, and the enforcement, no, the enforcement is actually the more important question. The other part of it is, I thought we were in the process of reviewing the technology policy that never came through. I don't know what, I don't know if you're about to say something.
No, I think there were revisions that were made.
Yeah.
They were sent to the whole board.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just a matter of not putting it on the agenda.
But the one that was sent to the board was not appropriate. It was
I don't think we got a red line.
We didn't get a red line. We didn't get a red line one. We got a weird cockamamie
But we
one.
did afterward.
No, the one afterwards was not, does not.
Let's look into that. Can you take a look at that? Because I thought it came from you, but.
Yeah.
So what should I tell my son, assuming he shoveled?
Look up the policy online, and that is what our policy is at the present moment.
Okay. Do you think it says?
I know it says
yeah.
it. It definitely says it. I
specific.
remember us debating at this board level the difference between lunch and study hall, and I can't
It
remember.
was a question of computer or phone.
It says specifically about music in study hall and lunch. I'm just.
It's in, what is it?
5,000. I believe it's a 5,000 or it's a 5,000 or a 2,000. Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now, but we can move on.
Okay. Is there any other old business? Okay, new business. Tim?
Okay, so we're looking at next year's calendar, and after having a lot of conversation, there were a couple of recommendations that we don't just draw to your attention and open up for the conversation. The first is that contractually there could be 2 days to open school. Right now, that would be additional professional development days. Right now, we have this built into the overall calendar within the 185, but that could be 2 days beyond if you were going to add those two.
Tim, can I interrupt you briefly? Are we looking at 14-15 or 13-14?
14-15.
Okay, thanks.
And so we've maintained all of the current holidays the way that they are, blocking them out. When we get to November, there was some conversation this year as far as the half day as opposed to not having school on Wednesday. So that's something that's listed for conversation. When we're looking at the winter break, the way that it falls this year, you could either bring students in for a day and a half the following week, and then on the back end, again, you're also looking at there would be 1 day, which would be the 2nd. So those are all blocked out right now, but just the way that it falls, you're either getting students in for a day and a half prior to the break or a day coming back afterwards. We have Martin Luther King blocked out, President's Day. The way that Easter break falls, it actually lines up nicely this year. between the Easter break and Passover. We have Memorial Day. And when you're looking at what the last day would be, again, if you're looking at this is based on 185 student or 185 staff days, 180 student days.
But we have 182 student days.
You have that you can have up to that in the contract. So again, that's where the question of taking other additional days away, or the 4th and the 5th being paid days as opposed to built into the contract.
So
right now it's built
we're giving
into
up 2 instructional days for the professional development days. Is that what we're
that's how it's listed right now. Yes.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. The 2nd through the 5th is 2 days of PD and then 2 days of compliance stuff back to school, and
it's trying to make sure that we get off to a good start, making sure that there's plenty of time. One of the things that we had talked about extensively at the beginning of this year with the staff was that they need time to come in, they need to be prepared. Tied it to, when you talk about that, tied with the professional development needs, we felt that bringing in and that the 4 days would provide us ample time to provide that.
I'm curious on those 4 PD days, or the 4 days in the beginning of the year. It would be for real PD, not blood-borne pathogens and things like that.
Correct. This past year, the schedule was based on things that were mandatory as opposed to things having an instructional purpose. The intent is to take all of the mandatory training and put that into the faculty meetings and make sure that this is instructionally focused and looking at the initiatives rolling into this year.
So can we contractually not have 182 days if we do the 2 days of PD?
I'm sorry?
We normally do have 182 days of school. Right now there's 180 in the calendar, and I think you were saying that those 2 were PD. If we were to, can we do 182 days?
If you did 182 student days and you're going to maintain, then those would be 2 additional paid days.
Okay. At a
I see.
I see.
Yeah, no, yeah, so it's a per, is it?
So we're trading the 2 school days for professional days, essentially.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Well, I just, maybe, sort of, except that how many days, I'm jumping ahead to the winter holiday. The one on the calendar starts on Monday the 22nd. They don't come back until Monday the 5th. So it's 2 full weeks you've got on the calendar off.
So, and that's what I was speaking to.
You talked about the day and a half at the beginning, or... Yeah,
you're looking at if you bring them in for the 22nd and the 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a day and a half of instruction.
I understand.
Well, actually,
Look,
it can be 22nd, 23rd, and half a day on the 24th. We have half a day on Christmas
I'm not a
Eve.
huge...
But right now it's at half a day for the 19th, so you do get back 2 full days, no? Because you get the half day.
No, the half...
We've had half a day on Christmas
the following
Eve.
week. Yeah. When you look at the instructional time of coming back off a weekend for a day and a half, that's the point that I was trying to make.
Ah, yes.
I know my kids would want to kill me if I was advocating to shorten the winter break, but I fully support being off on the 2nd of January. It seems pointless to come back for a single day of school in the middle of that holiday. And I think many parents are going to have that day off, and they would appreciate being able to be home with their kids. I doubt many people are going to have off on the 22nd, and I think that I don't know that it would pose a hardship to the parents necessarily for their kids to be home. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but that just seems like a very early start to the winter holiday.
Yeah.
So it seems like, though, the trade-off is a question of putting if you put instructional days back, then either we dial back the end of the school year or we lose the 2 professional days in the beginning of the year. Right. Is that basically that's the conversation?
Well, or they become paid days at the beginning of the school year.
Right.
Or we shorten the Christmas vacation.
Right. Well, any days we shorten right now, we have to subtract a day or pay for a day. That's what the conversation is.
Right. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, that is exactly. Yeah. Right. Sorry.
Okay. So what you're saying is at the beginning of the year there are 100 and whatever the number is, 185 days. Staff days.
180.
And you're talking about giving 2 days to the staff for PD as a trade for instruction days.
2 instructional days.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. All right, so here's what I want. I would
Okay.
like.
All right, I understand what you're saying.
What I'm advocating for is not to change the philosophy of this district of having 182 days of student school days. And I would be willing to pay for the extra 2 days because I also think the PD is important. I would like to know how much that's going to cost us to pay for the extra 2 days, but that is where my gut is telling me to go. Last time, Darcy and I guess we disagreed on this one last time also. No, when we changed the calendar last year, when we brought it down to 180 days because of snow last year, I didn't want to do that then, and I don't want to do it now.
Is there any estimate of how much that would cost to have 2 extra paid days?
You can just rattle that off, can't you, Linda? Just
No.
pull that right off the top.
I'd have to get back to you on that.
Well, but I guess if that's the prevailing decision, I guess I'm looking, is that the prevailing decision?
I don't know.
We're going to go with
Just
180.
look at it. I mean, I think we just look at it.
No, but what I'm saying is then where are you going to take those 2 days from?
The 22nd and 23rd. Would be my suggestion. I just think it's the philosophy of this district. We've codified it into policy that we do 100. While the state guidelines is 180, Highland Park Valley is Education, where we do 182 days of student contact time, and I think we should hold to that.
I think the important piece, though, is to not lose sight of the PD days in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think this is the kind of thing that nobody has. No districts have this kind of professional development at the beginning of the year where there's 2 full days in addition to the 2 sort of mandatory days. And I think in terms of starting the school year off right, making sure the expectations are clear, the evaluation model, whatever other things are needed, I think it's great.
And I think that's what Kim was addressing, right? That it would give time to have for the teachers to have actual input into what they wanted to have in that time, and I think that's crucial.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think can we push this one more meeting?
Yeah, we don't have to actually do this till March 15th, but we're looking at, I guess, the March 10th meeting. There was a conversation about moving it to the 17th for the budget. So those things would have to be addressed at the very least at the next meeting.
Yeah, okay. I don't know where I stand until I really see the budget numbers. So.
And I have a question. Does this calendar include the issues that Kim brought up from the teachers?
Yeah, those are the two. Go on. I'm sorry.
This one?
Well, we've met and discussed this calendar.
Yeah, she's enthusiastic about this.
The other question, I guess, would be, I know some districts, Piscataway does this, provides a day every month or every other month for half-day PD so that you can have sort of continuous professional development throughout the year. That's not already on the calendar. Is that something that...
I think that we've talked extensively about what the professional development needs are. Again, that was something that I think we should consider as well. You're looking at, again, to front load those days, again, is to make sure that we're everyone's on the same page moving forward to start the year. The continued days throughout there allows for that follow-up. I don't know if you would do every month, but every other month is a potential possibility.
So Anne is the savior of this year's school calendar.
But just graduation.
Just graduation. So what are we doing for this 2015 calendar? Are we setting graduation as the 22nd, no matter what?
Looks like it.
Okay.
There's an asterisk there.
And that's what you like, right?
And that's after the three potential snow days, right?
No.
So that's what we did. No. So that's what we did this year. We actually made graduation after the third day of the 3 potential snow days, which I think actually turns out to have been
the 25th.
Prescient this year.
Yes.
So I mean, if we have one more snow day, then I think that then the seniors will still get 180 days in.
Right. It doesn't look like there's snow days built into the 2014-15.
Yeah, I think we need to build the 3 snow days in at the end of the school year.
Well, and I think
global warming and all.
But I think that's something else that you're looking at. We have 3 days this year. You can see it at the note at the bottom. It says that this calendar reflects 3 additional snow days.
Wait, where?
It's in the
Oh, it
box.
does. Okay, it does. The 23rd, 24th, and
25th.
Right, but it is, sorry, go on.
But the other thing to consider is, you know, again, when we flip back to this year's calendar, is to try and identify, if you're going to take days off, that you identify those up front. So if you exceed 3 snow days, are you going to then go to the 26th, or are you going to eliminate President's Day? Or are you going to eliminate something off?
We can't have graduation on
break?
the 26th. We can't, so that would be a problem. We can't have graduation on the 26th. We would have to push it either, we would have to back it up to the 25th or push it to the 29th.
I think that what we're saying on this calendar, though, is we're saying graduation is the 22nd.
So we can't
regardless
graduate
of how long
them.
school
We
goes.
can't graduate them unless they've had 180
Right, and I'm
days.
saying, and I think Ann is saying that graduation should be the 25th on this calendar.
Right, at least the 25th,
Yes.
if not the 29th.
Oh, I think it should be the 25th and then take away President's Day.
Okay.
Yeah, on the last year's calendar, it's clearly marked off that 19th and 20th are there for snow.
Yeah.
And graduation is set at the end of those 3 days.
Yeah.
So it would be the same thing as if we made the 25th graduation.
Yep.
And sort of
And we decided last year that graduation was no longer going to be a moving target.
Right.
So we are going to set it and fix it.
Yeah.
And pray.
Yep.
Okay.
Worked out this year.
So if you're going to identify days, then we should identify as well, I think, what would be the days that, if you exceed 3 days, that you would remove from the calendar. Which days? Because again, for
I think President's Day is an easy.
Not a big fan of picking that one.
Why?
My only reasoning for it, we can debate it, and I'm going to back down quickly on this, but that is a day that virtually everyone has off from work.
I don't have off from work on that day.
Okay, not everybody, but many people have off from work
So
on
what
that
would
day.
what would the alternative be?
Well, I'm just making a point that that's a day when parents are home, and it's a welcome reprieve to be home with the kids. For some of us anyways.
it would be a more welcome reprieve if they were in school, right?
And I hate to, I don't want to take time away from planned vacations, but I'm also just throwing it out there that that's a day when parents have an opportunity to be home when they have a scheduled day off. That's in their company's schedule, not in their own. That's my only argument for leaving that one on the calendar. I understand why we would have to take it away if it's the only choice. Personally, I'd say let's take away the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, except we can't reach back in time and take away the Wednesday before Thanksgiving when a snow day hit in January. So, anyway, that's my only comment on President's Day.
Even President's Day presents,
its own set of problems.
Its own set of problems,
Yeah.
because it's possible that, that the additional snow days will come after that. And in fact, I think we probably
may
need
get
to,
a few.
we may need to think about that in terms of when the makeup is. There's no days off in March. Boy, that's,
I mean, if we're bumping up this hard against the calendar, I think we have to recognize that spring break is at risk.
yeah, days off from spring break,
But
really.
from the back end, though, from the 10th, I would recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a perfect year to
Although I
pull
don't
them from the end of
know
spring break.
When are the various
know.
holidays? I don't
4th to 11th. 4th to 11th is Passover. So
4th and 5th are the Passover, big nights, and 5th is Easter as well. So
it is?
Okay. The back end is fine.
Why is the 2nd a half day in April?
Because the day before a long break, we always have a half day. It's contractual.
I think that's contractual, right?
Yeah.
It's contractual.
What about if we made May 22nd a holiday and had school on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving as a half day? That would give us another day to use as a snow day if there was a snow day later in the calendar. The Friday before Memorial Day.
That's a good idea.
But what was the trade?
The trade would be the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, making it a half day, so that it's an actual school day.
And we haven't had the Wednesday before Thanksgiving before, at least not the whole day. We've had half days on the Wednesday before
So
Thanksgiving.
2 half days. Wait,
No. So the 26th would be a half day, rather than no school.
Right.
Of November.
Of November. And then moving that day
Very
to the
good idea.
22nd, that day off, so that if we needed to take a day away,
Right.
we'd have the day in May.
So 26 becomes a half day.
And then the 22nd becomes a
day off.
day off
Unless
that we can
need
then take away as
As needed.
If needed.
Okay. See, that's interesting because New Brunswick had a 4-day weekend built in for President's Day,
Right.
and I bet it was for something similar to
Yeah.
that. It was a built-in. I was like, why do they have a 4-day weekend for President? Yeah, well, exactly.
I think people might prefer a beach day.
Because on spring break, the last 2 days, the 10th and 11th, those are actually Yom Tov days as well.
Those are what?
Those are observant days.
I know. We've talked about those. Yeah.
Okay. And we've done that before, I think, a half day the day before Thanksgiving. That's not like...
Yeah, I think that's common.
That's what we've always
practice.
done. We've never had the day off.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we still need to get feedback from you, Linda, on what it costs to have 182 days of instruction, correct?
Plus the 2 days of, actually,
The extra
what we need is the 2 days of professional development.
Right. What does it cost?
And then the other question is just what I brought up, which is what day are faculty meetings?
Mondays.
Mondays. So maybe there's like a Monday in March and, I don't know, Monday in November or something like that, that we could make a half day.
There's a lot of time off in November.
Yeah, it's always.
Yeah, okay. I mean, or October, I'm just saying for the continuous professional development, which is...
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, we do. We do.
I just want to bring up something.
Wait.
Sorry.
Let's do one thing at a time.
We're probably going to have another one.
I'm on the calendar.
No, I know.
Oh, you're asking for answer on that.
Yeah, I'm asking for thoughts.
Yeah, sorry.
I often pontificate.
So
I don't think we're talking about President's Day.
we're all generally in favor of 2 professional days at the beginning of the year.
It's 4.
Well, 2 additional.
2 additional.
We're all generally in favor of having a school day the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, a half a day, but a school day. We're generally in favor of planning to have the Friday before Memorial Day off, but leaving it out there as one of the iffy days. And that's one iffy day. Are we identifying other days as iffy days, or is that the only iffy day? I'm just...
President's Day.
President's Day is an iffy day?
I mean, that's 5 snow days, right?
Or the back end of spring
That's true,
break.
because we have the 3 days at the end of the school year, plus the Friday before, plus President's Day as all potential iffies.
Right.
And we're still reserving the right to change the calendar if need be.
Well,
right.
If we have another Hurricane Sandy, God forbid.
So my suggestions for the half PD days, if people think that that's a good idea, would be something in October and something in March, because they seem to be pretty well separated with regard to the other breaks.
Okay.
That sounds right.
And there aren't any other days off
So
in those
2
months?
half-day PDs plus the 2 full PDs at the beginning of the year. Would that be somewhere where you would say 1 at the beginning of the year, then 2 half throughout the year for things that come up? So then we're not...
No, this is an addition, right?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
The 2 half are in addition to the 2.
But in essence, that's losing another day of instruction, and we're talking about not wanting to lose instruction, so...
Yeah.
We all know, half day,
I
not quite the same instructional value.
I would reserve on that until we get an answer on the 182.
Okay, so let's leave it out there as part of the conversation.
I think it should be part of the conversation.
Okay.
Okay.
So now we back up to...
Wait, I just want to talk about one thing on this calendar. Martin Luther King Day. Love to see that as not an in-service day, but as a community service day run by the school district.
Okay.
Making that a school day?
Making it an optional day. But we would have to pay staff. Yeah, making it a day run by the district. I don't exactly know how other districts do it, but I believe it would require paying some staff, but having the school buildings open for some type of service day.
You need to flesh that out a bit more, but it sounds like a nice...
Yeah, it sounds good. I don't know.
It's another financial conversation, but it's something that we've talked about at the board level before.
Well, and we have Diversity Day now. That's actually, I think, the week before in January that they've been using. But again, I guess the question is that if you're looking at that being a paid day,
right,
that would be something we'd have to talk about as far as contractual obligations. If you're looking at making it a school day, then you could subtract a day off of June or give you...
I will do more research into what...
Or it could be a stipend day, right?
Right, that's...
Which would be outside of the contract.
I will do more research into what other districts do for that. I know a bunch of districts in the area have Martin Luther King as a volunteerism day, and see how they at least structure it.
Great. All right, current calendar.
Okay. So we've had 4 days we've missed so far.
We're missing Wednesday or Thursday. Probably.
Thursday, it's, we'll see what happens. But you're looking
call it
at...
now, Tim?
I heard we're going to get 8 feet of snow.
I heard we're going to get 30 feet.
But if we're looking at the 3 days that we've already have built in, again, this is based on, this calendar is based on the 182. Again, I understand the perspective that you're taking, Adam. But again, I think it's something to consider as far as the 180 days is what the mandate is, not 182. I don't believe that you can, I wouldn't recommend taking the next Monday with less than a week's notice for staff. And when you look at the only other dates are Memorial Day and the spring break.
We ran into this issue last year with Sandy and the 180 versus 182.
Well, I remember that Franny called it the Holy Wars, deciding whether you take a day from the beginning of spring break or the end of spring break. It's a tricky thing either way.
Can you go back? I'm completely unclear about what our state is right now. I know you were pointing at the sheet of paper, but what's...
We're -1.
If we have no more snow days at all, we're in the clear. No. Where are we right now?
-1.
We're -1.
What does that mean, -1?
You have to subtract.
We had the 3 built in to the end of the, and those are taken up already. The 3 that we built into the end of the calendar, and we have already taken those plus 1 more. So we're minus a day.
So that moves graduation?
Nope.
No,
graduation was set, but in this year's
Okay,
calendar.
it moves last day of school from the 23rd to the 24th? Or from, what's the last day of school right now? No changes to the calendar, it's just that we've had all the snow days.
Well, as Tim said, it's...
Right now, it would be, if you were going to add on all 4 days to June, then you would be closing on the 24th, would be the last day for students.
24th would be the last day.
But as Tim said, Highland Park goes above the mandated 182.
We can do that. We can go to the 24th. We
Right.
can actually, we can go to the 24th. We can graduate them on the 23rd because they only need 180 to graduate. So, I mean, we can go to the 24th.
Yeah.
And we can't, we don't have to take away dates from spring break or Memorial
Well, that gives
Day.
us 2 days of flexibility. Going to the 24th gives us 182 days of instruction.
But the
Correct.
seniors can graduate on the 23rd.
And they can graduate on the 23rd, and we can have 2 more snow days and then make a decision to only have 180 days of instruction.
Right, so right
Is
now
that
we
what
can
the
say...
suggestion is?
Right, but frankly, I mean, we also need to, So what Greg's saying, if we go to the 24th, that's our -1. We would then have 2 extra days if we wanted to do a 180-day school year for students.
Yes?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
So
So
if you backed it up to 180 days, which is what is mandatory, then from the 24th, you're looking at, that would be day 1.
No, I just, right now, 182 days of instruction with the current number of snow days we've had brings us to the 24th.
Yes.
Correct.
182.
Okay. That's just 182 days of
Yes,
instruction brings us to the 24th.
And I would recommend taking away April 21st.
Well, let's just, I mean, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure we're all clear. Right now is June 24th. If we don't have any more snow days, we're in the clear. It's 182 days of instruction. Okay, and then the question now is, what do we need to do if we have more snow days? You're saying we can go down to 180 days of instruction
We
and
can
still
actually-
be within the law.
We can comfortably go to the 25th, and that still gives the teachers the 26th and the 27th for their classroom stuff. I mean, we can actually still go to the 25th. We have to stop on July 1st contractually, but we could go to the 25th.
Okay.
Here's what my recommendation, and it's probably not a popular one, is to take away the April 21st. I value days in April more than I do in June.
I agree with Adam.
Okay, you all remember that?
Yes, I
that
do.
board meeting, right?
Right, I
when
do.
the teachers did not like that idea.
You and Adam you can sit here at that board meeting and we'll go outside.
I do remember those board meetings.
Yeah, just in terms of families celebrating their holiday on the 20th. The 20th is the holiday.
I think the most important thing for us at this point today, right now, is that the 17th is not going to be a school day.
Right. Yep.
Do we all agree on that?
17th of this month.
President's Day is not going to be a school day.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we're keeping it all.
Okay.
Yes.
So then we can deliberate about the rest of this.
Yep, if need be.
Because we're going to have a snow day probably this week. We may have another snow day on Thursday.
I mean, I asked this question last year around Hurricane Sandy, and my predictions didn't come true, so all of my concerns about pre-communication were unnecessary. But let's assume we continue having a really bad winter, and we're faced with the conundrum that we've burned up more days than we think. I mean, that we're going beyond the 25th of June with 182 days. Would it be reasonable, and I'm not advocating for getting rid of the 21st of April, that Monday, just carte blanche saying we get rid of it, but would it be wise for us to say out loud that we need to consider that as a day that may need to be taken away? And to kind of like just say it out loud to everybody officially that that's a day we're looking at? Because that's the only day I can see on the calendar, except for the stuff that's at the end of the calendar that's really
in play.
I mean, maybe if it gets really, really bad, I suppose all of spring break is in play, but that it would have to be really bad for all of spring break to be in play.
Was there a 94?
Does it make sense for us to throw that out there and say we don't want to take it away, but that's the day that's potentially at issue, and we don't want it to be, but let's just get it out there that we got to talk about that at some point, maybe.
I think that's a fair statement.
Yeah, I think we should provide clarity, at least where we're going with this year's calendar.
Is it, I guess the question is, and maybe this creates more confusion, you guys tell me if it does, is this the kind of thing that should be communicated to the parents, that this is a day that's in play? Or is it enough for us to say it here tonight? Is this the kind of thing, when we say it looks like school's going to go to the 25th, should we say in that letter too that April 21st is a possible day to be taken away, to prepare people for it. Not to say it's going to be taken away, but say we're looking at it and we have to think about it. Come to the board meeting and talk to us about it if it's important.
Yeah. There's multiple decisions, though, that this board needs to make. First and foremost, are we going to do 182 or 180 days? That informs the next decision of, are we going to take a day away, or are we going to add to the end? Or are we going to add to the 24th?
I mean, I think for now, I don't think for now. I think we have to assume that we're going to do 182.
Perfect.
But I mean, if we continue to get hit with snowstorms, I think we'll have to consider the possibility of reducing the number of days. And I still think we can add them on to the end of the calendar, which has the least amount of impact, I think, on, on families who've made plans or whatever. You don't want to.
Okay.
So I think, I mean, at this point, we can still have graduation when graduation is planned for. If it gets to the point where we can't, then we probably will have to take away the 21st.
Okay.
So if our goal of having 182 days of instruction is 182 days of instruction, we all know those last days of school, there's not a ton of instruction. So we can add a day to the end of the year, it's just not going to be an instructional day.
That was my point that I was making.
So to me, I wouldn't want to add a day just to add a day. I would want to add a true instructional day.
I mean, I think we're looking at, right now, we're at the 24th. Again, based on what we're looking at this week, we could be at the 25th, and I think that you should, if that is the 21st that we're going to take into consideration, I think Greg's right. The most notice that we can give people.
Okay.
The only thing that I would say about the end of this is when we're looking at 182 days and you're looking at graduation on the 23rd and the last day being the 25th, those seniors are going 180 days.
Absolutely.
With the graduation on the 23rd. If you have an additional day beyond that, then you have one day of play for the 21st, or potentially looking at moving graduation.
Or Memorial Day, yeah.
Well, let's...
Yeah, you're right.
It's hard to
Memorial
move
Day.
graduation. Yeah, I think we're not going to move. I think we're really trying very hard not to move graduation for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is parents planning project graduation are really hobbled when graduation is a moving target.
So let's everybody knock on the board table, which is wood, for only one more day, if any.
So have we decided that the 21st is the day that we are thinking about if there's one more snow day?
Why can't it be the 11th?
The 11th?
That half day of April.
Well, that
is considered a day of school.
That's a day of school.
Yeah.
Half day is a day. It counts toward the total.
As silly as it sounds, it seems like if we tell people that we're targeting as hard as we can for graduation to take place on the 23rd, and we're hoping beyond hope that there are no more snow days and we don't have to change any of the schedules at the end of the year, there is the possibility that we're going to have to take away the Monday after spring break if it gets bad enough. And there is the possibility that graduation is going to have to get moved to a different day. We're trying really hard not to do that.
That's not a possibility for this year.
How's that not a possibility?
Because contracts, I believe, are signed. And
if we have, look, I mean, all I'm saying is we've had 4 snow days already. It's not unreasonable to think we're going to have another 3 before the winter is over, and then we got serious considerations. That's all I'm saying. I don't want it to be a different day.
I don't think changing graduation should be on the table. And
Because
I think we made a conscious choice of that last year, not to set that in stone.
So you're saying that if the weather gets really, really bad, then we're going to eat even further into spring break.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Then that's the communication. That's what we have to tell people. If this is what we're talking about, people need to be prepared for a potential eventuality that no one is hoping for. So that people can give us some input on this if they think we're out of our gourds.
And the point of what Ann brought up about project graduation, which I just learned this year, is that it's the night of graduation.
Yeah.
And so I forgot, there is a place that's been booked, and I don't know that you can just book it the next night.
Okay, but I think Greg's point is the right one. So if we're saying that the 5th snow day, potentially, is the 25th, then the 6th snow day would be the 21st, and you're going to count backwards on spring break. If there was a 7th, if there was a 6th, you want Saturday school, Adam?
I'm sorry, this one, sorry.
I mean, the 18th is Good Friday, if the 20th is Easter.
Yeah, we're not touching that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can't.
I'm just saying you got to count backwards at some level. You have to figure out, if we're committed to the 23rd, then we have to take days away from somewhere else. And I think we should be clear with people that those are the days that are at play.
Okay.
So.
That gives, I mean, again, you have 2 days for the rest of the year if you take Easter Monday. That's 2 days for the rest of this year for snow days.
Well, it's actually 4, because we still have I know this is funny math, but right now we have 182 instruction days till the 24th. If we go to the 25th because we have one more snow day, we're still at 182 days. Right?
For all students, not for seniors.
Right.
Seniors would only be at 180.
We're still at 182 days.
Yep.
As long as we keep the final day at June 25th,
right,
then we have the opportunity to, you're right, okay, so we have,
let's move on.
I'm sorry.
Move on.
We just have to be prepared for some of the days that might get taken. Hopefully we don't have to take them.
But the point of alerting people as soon as we have a decision is a good idea.
Well, even before we have the decision that there's this possibility out there.
Well, no, but the decision is this is what the next day would be, and the next day would be, so people can plan.
Okay.
Calendar.
Is there any other conversation about the calendars? All right, the third thing on new business is the Lice policy. This is on here because Jesse, who's not here today, was interested in bringing the Lice policy and protocol to the curriculum committee for review. Currently, there is no Lice policy, no board policy that speaks to how to handle Lice in a classroom. And so I know you've all gotten the communications about it. I'm not going to speak on her behalf, but this is why this is here, basically.
So can we table it till the next meeting so that she can address it, or do we have to have a discussion about it now?
I just think her question that she asked me as policy chair was, do we have a policy? And I said, and Linda and I looked, and there is no direct Lice policy. There is a policy that under NJSBA's rules has the purview of policy, but there's no language written by us or by us or NJSBA on Lice. What we've gone through the conversation about Lice at this board table before, and we've always deferred to our doctor for the proper procedure and notification material.
I do know that parents would like to know if there's lice in their child's classroom.
And I think Jessie had, I don't want to speak for Jessie as well, but that was a concern that she had brought up to me as well.
Well, then why don't we let her speak to her concerns at the next meeting?
Okay.
Okay. Is that okay?
But Dan and I did our due diligence. We promised her we would bring it up, and we have.
Thank you.
And I would just say that other districts that I've looked into, they don't have a board policy. What they have is a very strong district protocol that's followed in the schools, which is generally more K-5. Once the kids are older, they're not rubbing their heads up against each other.
Right.
Well, and if I can just make one comment, I mean, I think the concern is that, right now there's handing out of a pamphlet, but there is no notification policy as far as if there's lice in the classroom and we're not checking students. And the question is if we have lice in a classroom, how do you stop it from spreading? And that was really what the concern was from the parents that we heard from.
And I am
and then that's when we get very much into the weeds of it, because the current recommendations from any physicians, National Association of School Nurses, Harvard School of Public Health are not for class checks or for notifications. So then, while class notifications, I think, satisfy anxious parents, research doesn't bear out that actually has any effect on transmission of lice.
Yep.
So
the stuff that Darcy sent around today is very interesting. I would recommend that everybody take a look at that.
Is there any other new business?
Yeah, the police officer. I'm not interested in paying for a police officer to be here at a board meeting.
What about the concerns of the people that didn't feel comfortable here without the police officer?
This board, I think, and the community is respectful enough that we maintain the order of this room. The president is in charge of and does a good job of maintaining the order of of meetings, and I believe that we are sufficient enough being right next to the police station if ever there was a need for crowd control, which I highly, highly doubt there ever will be, where we can easily access that service.
So what should I tell the people that have spoken to me about not feeling comfortable?
Yeah, because I don't think it was crowd control. I think it was a feeling. I don't think it was crowd control. I think that the general feeling was that there were people who didn't feel comfortable talking.
I'm curious in this reason.
I also think on the opposite end, some people do not like the appearance of authority at a meeting like this. On the converse side of that. I'm just not interested in paying it. I don't.
This is something where the communications issues that we were trying to address before would be really helpful, because then we would know exactly how many people have asked to have this issue addressed, how many people have asked to have a police officer present.
But that's also private.
I think. Well, I mean, I'm not saying we would identify.
They're not emails to me, Darcy, is what I'm telling you. I can't prove anything to you except telling you that people have said this to me.
Yes.
Okay, but then that's not.
Are you asking for their names?
Of course I'm not. I just said it's not based on their names. I was talking about numbers of people. And if we're talking about an issue like that, I would think it would come before the full board, not just private conversations to one board member, and then all of a sudden a police officer appears at meetings.
I think we've gotten letters
No.
about
The board, hold on. The board has received emails to the board email address about concerns for safety.
The board has received numerous emails
Before you were on the
excuse me,
board.
Claire, can
Before you were on the board,
Claire,
Darcy, is
may
what
I
I'm
finish
saying.
my statement? The board has also received numerous emails, public comment about concerns for safety of students now that we've riffed a SAC. I don't see the SAC having been reinstated.
But we are.
Those are public concerns for safety as well. So to say that we're prioritizing certain concerns over others, and one gets immediate attention where another one gets brought up at meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting.
I mean, I don't know.
I
don't
not
agree.
Say we are. I believe we have addressed the SAC in some capacity, or to the satisfaction of the administration, that those questions have been asked when they have been brought to the board via email. The administration, I know, has looked into them, and same as this. I just don't want to. I've been on this board for 8 years. I've never experienced a situation like this, but I've also never experienced a community member acting out.
Well, from what I've understand, board meetings have gotten pretty spicy in the past.
They have. Sharon was normally president, though. She always invoked a lot of...
Adam, is your concern with the appearance of authority or of paying for the police officer?
I'm concerned with both as well.
Like, we're a nice community, an educated community. Like, there's no need. There's no need.
I think this is maybe something that we'll just take on a case-by-case basis, and the whole board should be aware of it prior to moving forward.
That is my main concern, is that the whole board is aware of it, that this is even under consideration.
Let's just leave it at that, and, you know.
So we're saying then moving forward from here on out, this is the last meeting where we'll see a police officer unless there's...
I'm saying that we'll take it on...
Unless there is board agreement.
Unless there's unless the board sees that there's an imminent need.
But I guess that's my question. Did the board see that there was an imminent need in this case, or was a decision just made?
We received emails about safety at the time when things were heated, we received a number of emails, and board members had private conversations with individuals about the safety, concerns for their individual safety, and speaking publicly.
So we'll take the concerns seriously and determine, you know, what action to take. I think makes sense.
If we get more emails, you're saying. So if there are no more emails from this point forward, we won't expect to see a police officer at the meeting.
I would assume that that's correct.
We're saying that.
Yeah.
Well, you're saying you don't think so.
Okay, I'm not saying that. So I feel responsibility to the people that have spoken to me.
I understand that.
And I'm sorry that they don't want to come and stand up and get hissed at by a group of people. So I want to be able to tell them something, so I can say the board
the police officer
agree.
has been here for the past 2 meetings. Does that not assuage the concerns?
Those people aren't here. They don't want to come.
But the police officer is here. I thought that was to remediate the problem. So if the solution has been offered...
Darcy, the problem is that people don't want to come. Now, I can say...
But what you're saying
Darcy,
is the
I
solution
can
that we're
say
paying for
a police officer was here last night, and so maybe they'll come back.
But they've been here for the last 2 board meetings.
We can look at this on a case-by-case basis. If there's an issue that seems to be a persistent issue, that can come to the board, that can come to me, it can come to Tim. We can have a conversation with the board. There's no reason to get into a back and forth about it. If it seems like there's a reason for us to have a police officer here, then the board will make that decision.
And not to beat a dead horse, but how will the board make that decision? I mean, we don't have policy around this. We don't. How are we saying the board will make that decision?
Presumably by...
I think it falls on you and Tim. You guys set the agenda for the meeting.
Presumably by...
It's a fair question.
No, presumably by majority. Right, I mean...
Presumably, yeah.
Yeah. So the question would be put to the board if this should arise again. And then, you know, input would be gathered, and then a decision would be made based on the
input. I like
that
much better. Thank you.
Is there any other new business? Okay. The Highland Park Board of Education welcomes public participation and has reserved this time for your comments. Again, if you are going to make public comment, please state your name and your address and sign in again, even if you've already signed in once. And as with the first public comment, I'll ask you to limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and I'll give you a reminder when that time has come.
My name is Kate Yerga. I live at 137 Hill Street.
Kate, could you just move the microphone down a little bit, please? Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as an educator and a parent of an Irving student, I have to say that what has been demonstrated this evening is unbelievable in response to the bulletin boards, going back to that. In responses to questions from parents, Michelle Callis clearly stated that she has never directed teachers to display rubric scores on bulletin boards. And you, Mr. Capone, reiterated this claim in your letter sent to parents last week, where you wrote that there had been miscommunication with staff regarding the displaying of rubric scores. What Mr. Sherman has said, the staff clearly was directed to display rubric scores by Ms. Callis. So what happened here is not that there was a miscommunication, that teachers somehow misconstrued Ms. Callis's instructions, but they did exactly what they were told to do. However, after parents started raising questions and concerns about the displays of scores, that is, among other things, it seemed to violate clear rules regarding the posting of student information, suddenly Ms. Callis changed course and placed all of the blame on the teachers, that they had somehow misunderstood. There is a simple phrase for this: misrepresenting the truth, to cover up one's own actions or mistakes. Rather than saying that she had made a mistake that would be corrected, she threw the staff under the proverbial bus. And you, Mr. Capone, rather than holding Ms. Callis accountable for this, simply repeated her misrepresentation of the facts, which means that you either did not care to find out what actually happened, which means that you failed in your responsibility to hold your assistant superintendent accountable, or you decided to purposefully misrepresent the facts yourself. Please tell me, what exactly is this supposed to teach my child and the other students at Irving? That it's okay to blame others rather than take responsibility for one's own actions? How can your administration claim to be in charge of our children's education? Highland Park deserves better than Michelle Callis, and it deserves better than Tim Capone. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Denise Mayfryer, 314 Wayne Street. So first of all, I appreciate Highland Park's finest. I think they do a swell job patrolling our streets, keeping our community safe. I personally don't think they belong here. I haven't seen any threats to anybody. If you feel threatened, certainly everybody has a cell phone and the cops can be here in under 2 seconds. So that's one thing. Another thing is thank you guys for talking openly about the committees and making at least some of the public, if not all of the public. I can understand fully if you don't want to make them, let the public jabber on at them, but it would be really nice for the public to be able to see, particularly the Finance Committee and certainly the Curriculum Committee. I think we all understand the Personnel Committee needs to be personal. So my next question is about the task force. I had heard somebody earlier, Allison, believes Salerno gave a speech regarding a task force, and then I heard you all talking about a task force. I don't know if they're the same task force, but I certainly would like to see something that comes out that involves community dialogue to you all, and your more intimate conversations with members of the community. Again, because of the rift in our community that I think is just really, really capable of destroying the community and the things we love about Highland Park, where I choose to live in the state of New Jersey.
I think, yeah, I mean,
you can answer me that.
Yeah, sure. So the communications task force was actually what I was discussing, okay. Which is something that was put together by some folks from the Borough Communications Public Interest Committee. But the three things that were mentioned in the letter, I think they're definitely interesting suggestions. If we had a copy of the letter, it might even be, helpful for us. I'm not sure that we received it. I don't think that we received it as an email.
If you don't receive it, I'm sure that
Yeah.
Bobby's not here, but I'll email her and
Right.
tell her to send it to you.
This was Allison's email, not Bob's. This was Allison's letter,
Allison's,
not
yeah, okay.
Bob's.
Yeah, but I think that she's talking about a budget task force.
Well, I
is
think
what
there were
she's
three.
addressing.
There were three things on there.
In your
Yeah,
question, yeah.
and I think they were. There was a citizen advisory board. There was a public hearings on school budget, which is something that we do and have done. And then there's the task force with the tech plan. And then there was another mention of the technology committee by Kim Crane, I believe.
Yep.
And so there was a discussion about that, and I think that's a great idea moving forward. But I think that, the suggestions are, good suggestions, and we're always looking to try to find better ways to interface with the, superintendent's breakfast or the letters, the correspondences that are coming out from either the board or from the district. We are looking to try to, build that relationship. So I appreciate, the comment.
And just in that same line, regarding this forum that people were going to have regarding the park or Common Core, I understand how it went out. I understand how it was perceived to have come out. But I think if something's meant for the community, it should be sent to the community, because just because you don't have a child in a particular school doesn't mean you don't have an interest in that. For example, my children are not in Irving, yet I'm very concerned about the kind of principal you hire there and the practices that the teachers are being expected to perform in the classrooms. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hey, my name is Colin Marks, and I live at 443 Graham Street. So, so last time I spoke, I was told that the rifts were explained, fully, and, I'm not really sure if they were. From my understanding, Allison Salinero sent an Oprah request, concerning it. So is there something that I'm missing that is it really, so for your, could you at some point give to the best of your ability an explanation for the rifts in maybe a less formal setting? Or do you think that would be unproductive?
I think each board member speaks, Colin, I've spoken to you privately about it and your concerns. I think questions get answered in multiple different ways all the time.
So also questions concerning if there were what other sources of revenue were considered for the budget issue other than riffing? Was that answered? Because I remember people asking what other sources of revenue were considered other than by riffing employees? That isn't my question.
So do you not want to make an appointment with Mr. Capone?
Well, for me individually, I don't want to be a telephone. I would like you to be able to present yours, to go out there and try to state your side to the people who are interested for these things, instead of waiting for us to come to you for
So the board, we do feel that we have stated everything. If you don't feel that's true, which is totally your prerogative, you should come and talk to Mr. Capone individually.
So it's not only me though. There's someone sending in Oprah requests too.
I don't understand.
Allison Salinero, was that concerning the refs? Is that right? There was an Oprah request?
I don't know the board's not informed.
We don't get the Oprah requests.
So for me to talk to Mr. Capone, people have seen that as greatly unsatisfactory. And it's not really their fault, I believe. It's sort of hard to talk to you, Mr. Capone. For me, at least, because I might not always be as vigilant as I should be talking to you, because I might not get an answer, or you might get an answer to a question I didn't ask. Well, is this not productive for me to talk to you?
To who? I'm sorry.
Well, I really believe that there needs to be something less formal, something that the board needs to offer that isn't really small groups talking to the board, going to the board for information, the board presenting what it knows to the public, instead of the other people going to the board in small groups or individually.
Thank you, Colin.
Okay.
Robert Slevich, 123 Magnolia Street. I have, I think it's 6 requests here. First one being that the Board of Ed post where the proposed 400 Chromebooks would be employed in the schools and do it in a specific detailed document. Number 2, the Board of Ed post the results of the park assessment tool to ID what tech the schools require, if any, for the park assessment tests. Number 3, that the Board of Ed post the budget that was used to totaling a little over $1 million that was used in Mr. Humphrey's presentation. He outlined 173,000 of it. I just don't know where the other 800,000 is coming from.
It's in one of his slides.
It is not in one of his slides. 173,000 is in one of his slides. His other slides are at $1 million. And I don't know where it comes from. We don't have a plan. I want to know what his plan is and what kind of plan we're going to adopt. Number 4, that the Board of Ed post the book bills for the textbooks purchased since June 1st of 2013. Number 5, that the Board of Ed post all the executive session minutes for a minimum of the last 6 months as required by New Jersey law. And number 6, that the Board of Ed posted detailed reasoning for the RIFs. I don't really see anything coming of me and Mr. Capone sitting in a room together and discussing secretary ratios ad nauseum, because I'm just going to sit there and be frustrated about it. You know, some of this is based on, I think the other thing was technology for the schools. Okay, what technology do we need? You can't just throw that one at me. I really want a detailed reasoning, and I think you deserve, or excuse me, that the town deserves it. I think you guys deserve to put it together on paper. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Is there any other public comment?
Good evening, Andrew Zappa, 131 Johnson Street. With the discussion of Rubik's coming up recently, my wife and I have found ourselves in a very interesting position in our own household. We have twin boys who are 6 going on 7, who are being compared to Common Standard, who then bring that home and look at each other and compare each other to a Common Standard. Emotionally, it's been devastating because one of them, on his report card, did better than the other. And then that goes up in public, and they both know it. And it's heartbreaking to see. I mean, I'm not someone who cries, but me and my wife have struggled with that over the last week. And it's just gonna get worse in time. They're young, they don't have the emotional maturity, Dan, of a kid who takes Algebra 1. They're 6 years old, and it's just gonna get worse. So I need you guys to think about that, because it's making me It's destroying us inside, and it's only been a week. So if there's a way we can turn this around, if there's a way we can make that go back to some other way where you teach to the child and not to a silly number that's a KPI no different than a production standard on a manufacturing floor, we have to fix it, all right? So please work on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Is there any other public comment?
There's one other thing that I have for new business that I forgot to bring up. Do you mind if I quickly? Oh, there. Sorry. No. No,
I think that's out of order.
Yeah.
No one wants to be out of order.
Especially you.
Especially me, and scent of a woman. I'll sign in. My name is Brian McFadden DiNicola. I'm at 118 South 2nd Avenue. Just heard somebody ask you to think about something. I want you to think about this. I have never gotten up at a board meeting in my life in this town, and I've lived in this town for about 10 and a half years. And it has nothing to do with me being nervous getting behind the podium, because it's what I do every single day. So in 10 years, 10 and a half years, this is the first time I've come up to the podium. I'm not a whiner. And that's some of the things that have gone on about the parents who have made complaints. We're whining. We're not whining. We are concerned. And the concerns go unaddressed despite what comes from the table up here, that we've explained this away. You haven't explained it away, because you got a letter tonight from 250 people that said, you guys haven't done your job and you haven't explained it away. Explain it away to our satisfaction. There were 2 items in this meeting tonight that I want you all to think about, aside from what you just heard, that's devastating into a home about twin boys. Because I know the twin boys, and I know the family. And if it's devastating in that family, it's going to be devastating across the families. Think long and hard about what Mr. Sherman said tonight, when he said, we've never had meetings like this, when he's talking about the police officer who's here. And then there's the timer business. In 3 minutes, it's going to go up. And saying, oh, this is a crowd control item. This is not a crowd control item. This isn't a crowd control town. This is a town of smart people who come here, they want to engage you, they want to talk to you, and they want real answers. They don't want the smirks. They don't want nonsense. They want data. They want items that you can point to and say, here, Mr. McFadden DiNicola, here's why you're wrong. And if you can show me that, if you can show me where the budget gap was back in November, back in October, I'll shut up. I'll stop arguing about it. But until I see that, I don't understand. And if you have the numbers, if you have the income, if you have the data, and you say, listen, we were asleep at the wheel, and we now need this money. This is a town that puts money behind the board year in and year out. And this may be a year when that doesn't happen. And when it doesn't, what are you guys going to do? How are you going to come to this community and say, hey, even though we didn't listen to any of you, pass our budget? How are you going to look at us in the eye and tell us, even though we're not showing you these numbers that cause 10 people to lose their job? Believe us now. The second item I want you to think about is what Kim Crane said.
Enough.
When she said, don't point to your watch, I'll be done. When you say, when Kim Crane said, I need emails from the public to support my teachers so that they feel better about doing the job that they've done. You ask for somebody to come in and change things up. Well, somebody has changed things up. What have you gotten? You've got teachers asking for the public to send us emails so that we can put them into our file for the future, so that when we're possibly losing our jobs, we got something in there to point at it and say, you know, look, this community likes us. I had good experiences with my teachers. They're begging for that. Have they ever had to do that before? No. Have you ever had meetings before like this? No. So think about those 2 things as you're moving forward. and give that serious consideration. And then come back to the community with some answers to those questions. Because we deserve it. And you guys need to do that. And they've been begging you to do it since November. And this is Sunday. Was not just Super Bowl Sunday, but it was also Groundhog Day. I recently watched the movie Groundhog Day, where Bill Murray goes in and he wakes up and the same thing happens over and over again. It's 11 o'clock again. This is Groundhog Day in this town with all these meetings, and the same questions are getting answered. And the answer cannot be, you could ask the question 5 times, 10 times, 50 times, 100 times, and we're just not going to answer. This town deserves better. You guys deserve better. I know each one of you are better than that. Step up to the mic and be better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
I have a quick question. Like, is it unreasonable to ask?
Colin, please just state your name and address.
My name is Colin Marks. I live at 443 Graham Street. Do I need to write down?
No, that's okay.
Like, okay. So, is it unreasonable for to ask for an informal Q&A session? Like an informal Q&A session with the public. So, I guess I think it might be constructive.
It's something the board should discuss.
Yeah, because for me to talk individually with a board member or Capone, I can't really constructively do that as an individual because I don't really know enough to substantiate what I've been hearing. So I sort of need to ride on what I've been hearing. So I can't really do it on my own.
Okay.
So that would be constructive for me or you or anyone.
Okay. Thank you, Colin. Is there any other public comment?
I just have one other thing that I want to bring up that's important that we get discussed tonight, actually.
Can we do that? Because
yes,
we are now. I mean, it seems out of order at this point.
I don't. It's not really out of order. It's a response then to a question that was asked earlier that I'm going to respond to, if you don't mind. It's something that's important. It's about the Irving School principal that I want to talk about, and I don't think I should be. I don't think my opportunity, because I forgot to, should be impeded for that. Okay, we've never not allowed people to talk, so I'm going to talk. I would like us to do. Yes, fine. I would like to.
Sure. I will. Let's add a very brief 13A.
Sorry.
For new business.
It's literally just going to take 3 seconds.
It's okay. We just have to make sure that it's.
No, I agree.
You know.
Yep. I think we should send out a survey monkey for the Irving School principal, soliciting questions for the interview committee, and the parents on there to select on their own what questions they would like to ask during the interview process. It's the same process we did for the superintendent search, and I think it's an appropriate one to be done for this as well.
Okay.
It would go to the administration and the board to compile them, and then the committee would get them. The committee would get them during the interviews and be able to choose which questions they would like to ask.
How would the parents who don't have computers be able to participate in that?
As we have done in the past, that there is 0.1% of this community that does not have access to computers. It did work.
So
it did work with the superintendent, and many board members went through those questions and picked them as our own.
So for the 0.1% that don't have computers, do we need to make any arrangements?
They are outside the standard deviation that I'm focusing on right now.
So are you talking about leaving it blank for people to just write questions?
One question.
Set a set of questions forward and have people vote on the questions that should be asked?
No, just like we did. We sat behind closed doors when we were discussing questions for the
predetermined questions. We chose from predetermined questions.
No, we also had from the survey that we set out. One of those questions was, what if you could ask the superintendent candidates one question? What would it be? And we had a lot of those questions that I know a number of us looked through and actually asked, besides the predetermined ones that were done from the administration. I mean, from NJSBA. So it's just a simple thing. It's good PR. Nobody's going to dictate what questions are asked, but the people on the committee will have a wider variety of questions to ask than ones that are predetermined by NJSBA or NJ School Board Association or wherever we get the questions for the principal. It will take 3 seconds.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Anybody have any thoughts?
I think it's fine. I would just like to ensure there's opportunity for all.
Okay, so we will discuss how to do this.
No. I want it done tonight because the interviews are going to be happening soon.
We can't, you mean make a Survey Monkey right now?
No, not you make it, but I want to codify that we're going to do it tonight.
No, I'm not.
And I'm not.
Can it be done?
So explain exactly what you think the process would be on.
Okay. Tomorrow, a Survey Monkey is created. A paperless email is sent to the Irving School families that says, we've created this Survey Monkey for your input in terms of the interview for the Irving School principal. Please fill in the one question. The one question is, what question would you like to ask the candidates to be for the Irving School principal's position? And the interview committee would then have those questions. I'm assuming the committee is going to go through the questions before, all the questions that you've compiled that we've gotten before we interview, and they would pick from whatever questions they want. They could pick from the community questions, they can pick from the predetermined questions, but it's just one more other idea and different people coming from different sides of the community who will have input into the process.
I don't mind sending out a survey. I don't mind collecting those questions. But as far as the questions that are being asked, it has to be comprehensive of all the things that you would need to ask. So
absolutely.
Again, I don't think it's limiting the questions. It may be just adding a few.
Yep.
It's not limiting what questions you would want to ask or the administration would ask. It would maybe potentially be adding a few that the community wants asked. And I would only add to what Adam said, that instead of it going out paperless only to Irving, that it go out to the whole district, because I think we've heard multiple people say that they may not still have a child in Irving, but they still would like to participate in the process.
You're right. It's no harm, no foul. It's really going to be easy, and it will just add to the volume of information that we're going to get.
Sounds okay to me. Okay. It will have a relatively short timeline.
Yeah, it will.
Open in public so that the hiring process can move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
By Friday. It's going to be by Friday.
Yeah.
And it could go out paperless at Irving, and to Claire's point, it could have a suggestion that the public library is open with computer access.
Yeah.
If any parents who don't have a computer in the home need access to the public library, we could even include the hours of the library on however many days the survey is open.
Cool.
Dan, thank you for letting me do that.
Yep. I'd like to make a resolution to go into executive session at 6:30 p.m. on Friday the 24th, 2014 at the Bartle School to discuss personnel, litigation, and negotiations.
Are we ignoring?
So moved.
Oh. Public comment has been closed. Yeah. Okay.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Did we just close? Is the microphone on?
Yep.
Okay.